Chapter 362. In the sky above the arena, countless black iron sand swords stood upside down in the air, pointing at the azurite flower. Under the influence of the crimson ripples in the air, even the students watching from outside the arena couldn't help but feel their scalps go numb. If even the spectators felt this way, what more Qing Jinhua herself? On the special platform, Lei Wang's eyes flashed with a hint of surprise. He looked at the crimson space with interest and couldn't help but smile. Is this some special armament? Good fellow, he has quite a lot of tricks up his sleeves. He's getting more and more mysterious. No wonder the old emperor couldn't help but want to meet him. Even I can't help but want to find out more. One has to admit that Lei Wang is not a simple character. It only took him a short while to figure out what Wu Yan's Gate of Babylon is. He knew that the crimson space is an armament and not some special ability. At least in terms of eyesight, there's no doubt about it. Of course, with Lei Wang's insight, the students below the age of 25 couldn't see anything. All of them looked at the strange phenomenon in the sky and their jaws almost dropped to the ground. They didn't even know if what appeared in front of them was real or just an illusion. After all, no one had ever seen someone who could manipulate space. In the next moment, Wu Yan made his move and told the students whether this was real or not. His hand, which was still in the position of snapping his fingers, waved downwards. Immediately, the iron sand sword that was hanging upside down in the air trembled slightly and shot out towards the azure golden flower. Qing Jinhua's expression changed. She stopped in her tracks and quickly retreated to avoid the iron sand swords. However, there were so many iron sand swords in the Gate of Babylon that it was more than enough to fill the entire arena. Where could Qing Jinhua hide? Hence, the iron sand swords flew forward one after another. Qing Jinhua finally had nowhere to hide. A few iron sand swords pierced through the gaps in Qing Jinhua's arms and nailed them to the floor, firmly holding her hands in place. Then, another few iron sand swords pierced through the gaps in her waist, holding her entire body in place. By the time Qing Jinhua realized that her body could no longer move, an iron sand sword was already floating in front of her. The tip of the sword was pointed at her forehead. At this time, less than 30 seconds had passed since the start of the match. Qing Jinhua stared blankly at the sharp black sword floating in front of her and pointing at her forehead. Cold sweat involuntarily trickled down her forehead. The entire place was silent. After a while, the Thunder Sovereign raised his hand. First match. Wu Yan wins. We won. On the high platform, Lulu and Flandrachan raised their hands at the same time and cheered. Chuju, Mikoto, and Feifei also smiled. Although they already expected that Wu Yan wouldn't lose in this place, but if he really won, they would naturally be happy for him. On the ordinary stands behind the high platform, the spectators also cheered loudly. One has to admit that Gate of Babylon is the best choice for showing off. Not only is it beautiful, the user doesn't even need to move. It's as cool as it can be. I lost. Qing Jinhua lowered her head when she returned to the high platform. She didn't dare to look at Bing Ling. Bing Ling sighed and patted Qing Jinhua's shoulder. Then he looked at Wu Yan. Don't be discouraged, he will be mine. Hearing this, Qing Jinhua nodded her head solemnly. Bing Mian, who was beside her, also laughed coldly. The two of them seemed to have great confidence in Bing Ling. Yan, look, that bastard is looking at you. Lulu pointed at Wu Yan's arm and said to Wu Yan. Hearing Lulu's words, Wu Yan turned his head and glanced at Bing Ling. Then he turned his head back. Looks like this time he's not only trying to get back his brother's face, he's also trying to get revenge for his woman. Wu Yan didn't know whether to laugh or cry as he shook his head. However, his tone was indifferent. To Wu Yan, it's best if Bing Ling hates him to death. That way he'll be able to gain experience after defeating him. Otherwise, the system won't give him any experience if he's not hostile. For example, Qing Jinhua was hostile towards him because of Bing Ling. Hence, after he defeated her, the system didn't give him any experience. However, Qing Jinhua's level was lower than Wu Yan's. Naturally, she couldn't level up Wu Yan. After Wu Yan and Qing Jinhua left the arena, the crystal projection screen started to move again. Then, one by one, the ranked powerhouses entered the arena. After Wu Yan's battle, a few more battles took place. Although the battles weren't as magnificent and shocking as Wu Yan's, they were much more intense. After all, Wu Yan's battle may be magnificent, but it's just a show to watch. The battle ended too quickly. It didn't have the same intensity as the other rankers who clashed with each other and made the audience go wild. During this period of time, a few of the top 10 powerhouses had also appeared. As for them, they seemed to have been stimulated by Wu Yan's battle. As soon as they entered the arena, they brought out their strength and defeated their opponents in a short time. This caused the audience to gasp in surprise. Gradually, as more and more people entered the arena, the atmosphere became more and more heated. After a while, it was finally Mikoto's turn. Compared to some of the previous fights, Mikoto won with ease just like Wu Yen and the other top 10 rankers. Mikoto's opponent is just a mid-tier 7 student. He might be slightly stronger than Jin Jinhua, but compared to Mikoto, he's still a far cry from her. Therefore, in the blink of an eye, Mikoto seized the opportunity and defeated her opponent with a taser spear. Mikoto returned to the stage with a disappointed expression. Wu Yen shook his head. He didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He won so easily and yet she's still not satisfied. Is he going to make this a repeat of his fight with Sylph? Will he only be happy when the audience is restless? At this time, Lei Wang's voice rang out again. However, this time Wu Yan's side fell silent. One of them was Chuju. Wu Yan couldn't help but ask Chuju, "Chuju, will you be okay?" Chuju smiled faintly and stroked the hair on her shoulder. She didn't say anything, but her brows were filled with confidence. Wu Yan looked at Hinajiku absent-mindedly before laughing along with her. At this moment, Hinajiku is just like how he used to see her on the screen. She's the student council president who's always brimming with confidence. Feifei said to Chuju, "Chuju, your opponent is one of Bishmo's generals from the Crimson Land. He's very strong and Bishmo trusts him a lot. In terms of strength, he's much stronger than the strongman from Sea of Icicles. You have to be careful. Don't worry." Chuju stepped forward and walked to the railing. "Leave it to me." "Oh." Unsurprisingly, Hinajiku's leisurely and beautiful figure attracted loud cheers from the audience. Many people even said that Hinajiku would definitely win, causing her opponent to grit her teeth. Wu Yen smiled when he saw Chuju's overwhelming popularity. His wine-red eyes were filled with passion. As expected of the president, Feifei and Lulu looked at each other and laughed. They looked at the stage and had to admit that Chuju was indeed shining. Then, under the watchful eyes of the audience, Hinajiku's opponent landed on the stage with a loud thud. Of course, this stage belonged to someone else. Chapter 363. Under the watchful eyes of the audience, a figure flashed onto the stage and appeared in front of Chuju. The newcomer is a handsome man around the age of 24 or 25. There is a red emblem embroidered on his uniform, proving his identity as a member of the Crimson Land. However, this rather handsome man's handsome face was filled with displeasure. His good looks were more or less ruined. In the first round of the tournament, he should be happy to meet a newcomer. Up until now, he was in a good mood. However, after Chuju's dazzling entrance and winning the cheers of the audience, he was displeased. Isn't she just a little prettier, a little more dazzling entrance? Why are all the cheers for her? At this moment, the man had already made up his mind. He had to win this match beautifully and take back all the cheers. Let's begin. Lei Wang glanced at Hinajiku before waving his hand and saying, "Let's begin." As the Thunder Sovereign's voice rang out, the gazes of the crowd immediately turned fervent. Numerous gazes were cast toward the arena, their eyes filled with a peculiar anticipation. Wu Yen, Mikoto, Ikaros, Shokuho Misaki, Astria, Takitsubu Riku, Frenda, and Kinuhada Sai, these 8 new special students have made a name for themselves in Silveria World Institute in less than a month. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that they made a name for themselves. Wu Yen challenged the top 10 of the 9 major factions and cleared the 5th floor of the arena tower. Mikoto tied with Sylph and became a hot commodity in the eyes of the major factions. As for Ikaros, although she was only a flash in the pan, she showed everyone that she's not as simple as she looks. Shokuho Misaki, Astria, Kinuhada Sai, Frenda, and Takitsubu Riku surpassed the former. They became the 13th major faction in the Spalier World Academy. They're in the limelight and their popularity is at its peak. They didn't even bother to hide their brilliance. As for the remaining Flandrachan, due to her appearance of less than 10 years old, it was normal that she hadn't done anything yet. As for the remaining newcomer, Gue Daigu, it was only now that she had entered everyone's attention. They're all newcomers, the first one has already become a person above the rest. What kind of surprise will the last one bring? It wasn't just the students who were looking forward to it. Even the Thunder King, who was seated in a special seat, was faintly revealing traces of anticipation. Of course, for the Thunder King there was another purpose. He wanted to see what Lulu's friend was like. Lei Wang's anticipation is hidden between his brows, but the audience's anticipation is expressed in the form of cheers. For a moment, the entire arena is filled with cheers for Chuju. The loud cheers angered the vain Crimson Land's opponent. His gaze towards Chuju gradually turned dangerous. Of course, no matter what, his opponent was still one of the top rankers in the rankings. Therefore, when the Thunder King announced the start of the match, he slowly suppressed the various emotions in his heart. Looking at Hinagiku opposite him, with a flip of his hand, a knight's long sword appeared in his hand. Clearly, his opponent will not be merciful just because his opponent is a girl. This point can be seen from the enormous do-chi rising from his opponent's body. Sensing the gradually rising do-chi from her opponent, Chuju finally slowly extended her hand. At the same time, a cherry blossom storm suddenly appeared and swirled around Chuju, attaching itself to Chuju's palm. In the next moment, a crystal-like sword slowly formed from cherry blossoms as they danced in the air and appeared in Chuju's hand. Tilting her head slightly, Chuju laughed softly. She looked at her opponent with a calm expression, as though she didn't see the extraordinary do-chi ripple. As she laughed softly, Chuju's figure flashed. Then the crowd saw that Chuju, who was originally 10 meters away from her opponent, had appeared in front of him in a flash. Her opponent's pupils shrank. Seeing that Chuju, who was originally 10 meters away from him, had appeared in front of him before he could react, a trace of disbelief flashed across his eyes. However, when he saw the calm expression on Chuju's face, as though she didn't place him in her eyes, his expression turned furious. The knight's sword in his hand was instantly enveloped in thick do-chi, carrying with it an air-piercing atmosphere as it violently pierced towards Chuju. The radiance of the do-chi suddenly increased greatly. With the cooperation of the vigorous do-chi, a terrifying destructive force was released from the knight's sword. In an instant, it had arrived in front of Chuju and violently pierced towards her shoulder. On the high platform, Wu Yan's pupils fluctuated. His heart was faintly filled with worry. After all, if this sword pierced through, Chuju's shoulder would probably be pierced through and a large hole would be formed. Of course, in the next moment, the worry in Wu Yan's heart quietly dissipated. The reason was naturally because in the face of the opponent's extremely ferocious attack, Chuju's expression didn't change much. Her yellow-green eyes stared closely at the knight's sword that was rapidly enlarging in her eyes. The corner of Chuju's mouth slowly curled into an arc. At this moment, the opponent's attack arrived in the blink of an eye. Looking at the do-chi sword that was violently surging towards her, Chuju suddenly raised her hand. The hand that was holding the white cherry suddenly stretched out. Like a flash of pink lightning, it directly collided with the do-chi sword. Bang! A muffled sound rang out. The two swords of different sizes fiercely collided. In an instant, Chuju's eyes flashed. The hand that was holding the sword quickly changed the angle. The tip of the sword tilted slightly and then suddenly flicked. That ferocious do-chi sword was actually flicked into the sky by Chuju. Chi. The do-chi sword soared into the sky, piercing through the clouds and directly disappearing into the horizon. At this moment, Chuju, who was standing in front of her opponent, was completely unscathed. What? The opponent absent-mindedly shouted. But immediately after, this what became the last sentence he left behind in this academy tournament. Chuju's hand retracted and the white cherry returned to her side. Then in less than 0.1 second, the white cherry once again turned into a flash of pink lightning. Chuju used a sudden stab and fiercely pierced the opponent's knight's sword. Immediately after, she flicked it again. But this time, it wasn't the do-chi sword that she flicked, it was the opponent's rather impressive knight's sword. Thus, in the next second, the knight's sword in the opponent's hand flew into the sky after the do-chi sword. Then it fell out of the arena. After that, there was no more after that. White cherry changed from a flick to a slap. The crystal sword viciously slammed into the opponent's chest. At the same time, the opponent was sent flying out of the arena and landed beside his own knight's sword. When the sound of the body hitting the ground was heard, Lei Wang chuckled and raised his hand to announce the result. This match, Gui Chuju wins. The announcement finally brought back the audience who were still in a daze from the quick ending of the match. They all looked at each other and then, one after another, cheers and shouts rang out. Their cheers were all directed towards Chuju on the arena. On the high platform, Wu Yan let out a sigh of relief. He couldn't help but smile. Mikoto and Shokuho Misaki also did the same thing. Looking at Hinagiku on the stage, his heart was filled with a myriad of emotions. One after another they turned into a deep sense of awe. He didn't expect Hinagiku's strength to have reached this level. The opponent's level is about the same as Chuju's, but in a real battle, he was defeated by Chuju in just 2 or 3 moves. This may be a surprise attack, but her strength can't be hidden by a surprise attack. Chuju doesn't have any abilities. All she has is the way of the sword that she learned when she was a student. But now, that simple way of the sword has become a sharp weapon in Chuju's hands. Chuju is no longer a weakling. Chapter 364. As soon as Hinagiku returned to the platform, Lulu immediately rushed up and hugged her, her face full of excitement, laughing and jumping, making Hinagiku helpless. Chuju? You're amazing. That's not true. Hinagiku looked at Lulu rubbing her chest in amusement. She didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Lulu is older than her by a year, but she's acting like she's older than her. Chuju, you don't have to be so humble. Feifei ran her fingers through her hair. She looked at Chuju's opponent and said seriously, "The strength of that member of the Crimson Land is not to be underestimated. Among the 100 people in the ranking, there are quite a few who can defeat him. However, less than 20% of them are able to deal with him in such a short period of time. The fact that you can defeat him proves that you have the strength to be near the top of the ranking." Feifei's serious face crumbled as she spoke. "Sometimes I really don't know where you guys came from. You, Mikoto, Ikaros, and Yen, each and every one of you have decent strength and talent. Now I'm starting to lose confidence in my own strength and talent. That's not it." Lulu shouted before anyone else could say anything. She turned around and hugged Feifei. "Feifei is amazing too. She's really amazing. That Crimson Land guy let Feifei go up. I'm sure she can defeat him in 2 or 3 moves." "That's right, Sister Feifei. Putting everything else aside, in my opinion, in the academy, other than those rank 8 students, there is no one below rank 8 who can win against you. Everyone can see that for themselves. Even if you ask around, no one will think that your talent and strength are lacking." Wu Yin chimed in as well. "What a joke if there's no system. Everyone here, apart from Ikaros, Astria, and Flandra-chan, none of them are worthy of being Feifei's opponent. Ikaros, Astria, and Flandra-chan are existences that have lived for hundreds or thousands of years. It's not fair to compare them to Feifei. If Feifei couldn't recover from the setback because of this, then they would have committed a great sin." However, Feifei's next sentence left Wu Yen speechless. "Wu Yen, no one below tier 8 can defeat me? What about you?" Feifei giggled at Wu Yan's speechless face. Her voice was full of mischief. "Alright, I'm just joking. Why are you guys trying to comfort me? I'm just feeling a little emotional," Feifei complained. However, her words angered Lulu. "Fine. Feifei, how dare you lie to me? I almost cried." Feifei didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Wu Yen, Chuju, and Mikoto looked at each other helplessly. They heaved a sigh of relief. "Oh." Suddenly, an earth-shattering roar shook Wu Yen, Feifei, and the others. They almost spat out saliva. At the same time, Lei Wang's announcement of the pairings reverberated throughout the square. However, one of the pairings made Wu Yen, Hinagiku, and Mikoto freeze up. They all turned towards the crystal ball projection screen at the same time. Shokuho Misaki's name was written on it. On the stage, Shokuho Misaki covered her mouth and laughed. She turned around and flicked her long golden hair. Shokuho Misaki is a sports idiot. Naturally, she wouldn't jump down from the stage like the others. Instead, she walked down the stairs slowly. But this action didn't disappoint the audience at all. Instead, because of Shokuho Misaki's graceful posture, they started screaming at the top of their lungs. "Academy Queen! Academy Queen! Academy Queen! Academy Queen! Academy Queen!" Shokuho Misaki slowly ascended the stage amidst the rhythmic cheers and cheers. She rested her face on her palm, trying to stifle her laughter, which made the students boil with excitement. Wu Yen, Chuju, Mikoto, Feifei, and Lulu had their mouths wide open. They felt dizzy when they saw the audience standing up from their seats and cheering for Shokuho Misaki. His popularity was simply too heaven-defying. On the other hand, Kinohata Sai, Frenda, Takitsubu Riku, and Astria didn't think it was a big deal. Only those who stayed by Shokuho Misaki's side during this period of time knew how powerful Shokuho Misaki's subordinates were. They also knew how brilliant Shokuho Misaki is. If a celebrity's popularity was built up through advertisements and promotions, then Shokuho Misaki's popularity was built on her own unique charm. She had captured the attention of the public. Shokuho Misaki is the queen of Shokuho Misaki. This is too much. Lulu's mouth was wide open. Looking at Shokuho Misaki, Lulu almost wanted to kneel down and worship her. Even Princess Sylph isn't this popular? Mikoto's expression changed a lot. After a while, she squeezed out a sentence. That woman must have used some despicable means again. Wu Yen and Chuju looked at each other and sighed. This is probably what they mean by, beauty is in the eye of beauty. The upper echelons on the special tall platform exchanged glances with each other. Clearly, they were frightened by the other party's frightening popularity. The Thunder Sovereign sighed, not knowing whether to laugh or cry. I'm afraid that if this continues, the academy will belong to that little girl. Amidst the deafening cheers, Shokuho Misaki's opponent appeared on the stage. However, no matter how one looked at it, the opponent's expression was one of reluctance. Wu Yen and the others looked at Shokuho Misaki's opponent sympathetically. They knew that if they were in Shokuho Misaki's shoes, they wouldn't fare any better. After all, Shokuho Misaki's opponent's popularity is too terrifying. The cheers and cheers all belong to him. This is a huge pressure for Shokuho Misaki. However, the next moment her opponent couldn't feel anything. Jisama. Shokuho Misaki's opponent's face suddenly changed. He looked at Shokuho Misaki with a fanatical look in his eyes. He kneeled down as if he was on a pilgrimage and rubbed his face against Shokuho Misaki. He almost wanted to lick Shokuho Misaki's toes. Shokuho Misaki chuckled and said, "Are you willing to listen to me?" He nodded without hesitation. There was no hesitation at all. "Then, are you willing to admit defeat?" Once again he nodded without hesitation. At this time Shokuho Misaki rubbed her forehead in distress. "But, it doesn't seem fair to you if you admit defeat just like that." Shokuho Misaki smiled. "How about this, knock yourself out? That way you won't regret that you didn't do anything, yes?" Her opponent shouted in a daze before he punched himself in the head and fainted. Lei Wang looked at the scene in shock. After a while, he raised his hand helplessly and announced, "Shokuho Misaki wins. Academy Queen. Academy Queen. Academy Queen. Academy Queen. Academy Queen." The cheers of the entire audience erupted once again. Shokuho Misaki giggled and tapped her lips. She said in a cute voice, "Isn't that a little too high profile?" Then she looked at the dumbfounded Wu Yen on the stage and she couldn't help but snicker. "Scoundrel. This time, I'll let you know who is the most suitable person to display their skills on this stage." It seems like Shokuho Misaki is still holding a grudge. Chapter 365. After Shokuho Misaki's victory, the rest of the battles continued. The top 100 rankers fought in pairs and there were 50 rounds. Some were fast and some were slow. As expected, after Wu Yen, Mikoto, Chuju and Shokuho Misaki won their matches, the top 10 rankers also won their matches and advanced to the second round. Feifei's match included. Of course, Feifei was the 5th ranker of the top 10 rankers. After her battle with Wu Yen in Bihurl, Feifei's strength increased by a whole level. However, Feifei's opponent wasn't able to force Feifei to use her full strength. Feifei used her chi blade and knocked her opponent out of the arena. That's how Feifei won. Astria was in the same situation as Feifei. Shokuho Misaki's popularity and ability to control her subordinates are strong. However, in terms of strength, she's still lacking an absolute powerhouse to become the 13th strongest faction in Spalier World Academy. Just like the top 12 factions, the leaders of each faction are very strong. Before Wu Yen and Co appeared, they occupied the top 12 positions. One can imagine how important it is to have a strong fighting force at the crux of a faction. Shokuho Misaki doesn't have that kind of strength. Her current level is 64, one level lower than Chuju. She can't be the symbol of a faction. This is why Shokuho Misaki kidnapped Astria in the first place. In Wu Yan's group, Astria's combat power is second only to Flandre-chan and Ikaros. She's more than capable of being the backbone of a faction. Shokuho Misaki's goal is to make a name for herself as the Queen of Starlight in the tournament. Let Astria win. Become the champion of the tournament. As long as Astria wins the tournament, Starlight Queen will rise as well. She will no longer be a part of the 12 strongest factions. The strongest faction in the world. She will rise from behind. She will be on the same level as the 12 strongest factions. Without Flandre-chan, Astria won't be able to win. Without Ikaros, Astria might actually be able to become the champion of this tournament. When Shokuho Misaki found out Flandre-chan and Ikaros won't be participating in the tournament, she immediately told Astria not to hold back during the tournament. Otherwise there will be no food for her. No food for her. Astria was scared out of her wits. That's why she pulled out her Chrysor the moment she stepped onto the stage. Then there was nothing else. Other than that, Kinohata Sai, Frenda, and Takitsubu Riku didn't participate in the tournament. Their reason is simple: they don't have the qualifications to participate. The top rankers are all prodigies who stood out among the 1,000 special students. The 3 girls aren't even tier 7, how are they supposed to compete with them? Thus they were reduced to mere spectators. After the 50 winners of the first round of the Academy tournament were announced, it was time for the first day of the Academy tournament to quietly come to an end. The sky gradually darkened. Lei Wang looked at the sky and stood up. The first round of the tournament has come to an end. The 50 winners will participate in the second round of the tournament tomorrow at the same time. I look forward to everyone's performance. The Thunder King and the upper echelon of the Academy exchanged glances after his words sounded. All of them nodded their heads. With a flash, they rushed off the tall platform and disappeared from the open ground. The audience also left the stage one by one. The number of people on the stage gradually decreased. Only Wu Yan and the others remained. It's not that they didn't want to leave, it's that someone else didn't want to. Mikoto looked at Shokuho Misaki angrily. Sparks appeared on her forehead as she shouted. Shokuho Misaki. Give my sisters back to me. Era Misaki-san, you're making it sound like I'm the one who stole the sisters away? Shokuho Misaki covered her mouth and giggled. Her queen-like demeanor was on full display, making Mikoto grit her teeth. You took the sisters without my permission. If that's not stealing, then what is it? Misaki-san, you got it wrong again? Shokuho Misaki grinned at Mikoto. She looked at Wu Yan, who looked like he couldn't keep his cool. The sisters are little Yan summoned characters. Although I didn't get your permission to take them away, I did get little Yan's permission. It's not like I'm robbing you, Wu Yan cursed in his mind. He wanted to slap Shokuho Misaki, but he couldn't stop himself from crying. I knew it. Every time they quarrel, the fire will burn me. Why did I stay behind like an idiot? I should have run. Mikoto's face turned red. She felt that Shokuho Misaki's reasoning was both ridiculous and reasonable. Of course, she was the older sister of the younger sisters. She didn't even ask for her permission, and it wasn't considered stealing. Of course, the logical part would be the phrase, irresponsible sister. Mikoto had always felt that she owed her sisters too much. Moreover, the one who saved them was Wu Yan. All she did was play a small role in the rescue. She had no right to question her sisters, that's all she could do. However, the one who had the right to ask had actually sold his sisters out. Moreover, he had sold them out to the person he hated the most. This was truly intolerable. She whipped her head around and saw Wu Yan. Her face is red with anger as she yelled at him. Yan, did you agree to hand the sisters over to Shokuho Misaki? Wu Yan wanted to cry, but no tears came out. I didn't agree to it, I was robbed. You were there that day, of course. Wu Yan didn't say anything, but that didn't mean Shokuho Misaki didn't say anything. She hugged Wu Yan's arm and rubbed her face against it. Xiao Yan really entrusted his sisters to me and told me to take good care of them. Don't you think so? Yeah. It's a good thing Shokuho Misaki's fans didn't see this. Otherwise, Wu Yan would have received an endless stream of overconfident challenge letters tomorrow. Wu Yan's lips twitched. His scalp tingled when he saw Mikoto's furious expression. Little Xen, why don't you tell me what happened to the sisters? Shokuho Misaki clicked her tongue. She pinched Wu Yan's arm as if she's blaming him for not siding with her. Then she continued. The sisters only helped me strengthen my faction when Starlight Queen was established. They are no longer by my side, no longer by your side. Mikoto shouted. What's going on? Explain it to me. Takitsubu Riku, who was standing beside Shokuho Misaki and staring at Wu Yan, finally spoke up. The sisters have been sent to the Behemoth Forest. The Behemoth Forest. Everyone gasped. Shokuho Misaki smiled, and her eyes glowed with wisdom. She said to everyone, haven't you noticed that your EXP is increasing rapidly? Even when you're not fighting monsters, it's still increasing? Everyone was stunned. After a while, Wu Yan said, did you send the sisters to the Behemoth Forest to gain experience points for everyone? That's right. Shokuho Misaki nodded. Since we can share the experience between summons, then let the sisters level up in the Giant Beast Forest and help us gain some experience. With 20,000 sisters moving together, we can gain quite a lot of experience. But leaving the sisters alone in the Behemoth Forest? Wu Yan said worriedly. Don't worry. Shokuho Misaki said meaningfully. You should be more worried about the monsters and the people who want to take advantage of the sisters. Chapter 367. In the middle of the arena, a tall and skinny figure stood opposite of Wu Yan. The special student uniform on his body was especially big, as if it was a size larger than normal. It made people feel a little comical, but at the same time, there was something special about him. Kester, level 67, in the crowded stands there were many whispers. There was almost no one in the academy who didn't know Kester. After all, he was the leader of a large faction and had the background of one of the top 3 clans in the empire. It was impossible for him not to attract attention. Only someone like Wu Yan, who was an outsider, would not recognize him. The battle in the Tower of Tournament was still vivid in their minds. The matter of Wu Yan challenging the 9 major factions was still not forgotten. Without a doubt, as the one who was challenged, he was more or less the loser. Now that they met again, it had to be said that enemies meet on a narrow road. Looking at Kester, Wu Yan automatically blocked the whispers around him. To Wu Yan, he had only met Kester once. In the Tower of Tournament, Kester didn't appear. Therefore, the so-called loser was just nonsense. However, Kester didn't seem to think that way. A pair of cold eyes stared straight at Wu Yan. Kester clenched his fists. For a disciple of a large clan like him, he had to fight. Other than the strength of the mainstream in the Spalier world, it was also a matter of face. And Wu Yan's actions in the Tower of Tournament were undoubtedly a slap to the faces of these major factions. It wasn't a loud but effective slap. Kester's feelings towards Wu Yan were very complicated. He admired Wu Yan's strength, resented Wu Yan for humiliating him, and wanted to recruit Wu Yan into his faction. He also wanted to teach Wu Yan a lesson. In short, he was extremely conflicted. Of course, opinions towards Wu Yan were just opinions. The competition was just a competition. Kester still put away all the emotions in his heart. No matter what Wu Yan was like, his powerful strength was undeniable. Therefore, Kester immediately raised his battle chi. With a wave of his hand, a long spear appeared in his hand. The body of the spear trembled slightly and shook at an extremely fast speed. The spear danced in the air and turned around, pointing at Wu Yan from afar. The series of smooth movements won the cheers of many spectators. Wu Yan glanced at Kester, who had a serious expression on his face. His face was expressionless, but his heart was bursting with joy. Looking at the long spear in Kester's hand, Wu Yan snickered in his heart. At the same time, he secretly sighed. Looks like there's no suspense in this match. I'm definitely going to win. After this baffling thought appeared in his heart, Wu Yan shifted his gaze towards the Thunder King, who was seated on the special tall platform. Sensing Wu Yan's gaze, the Thunder King involuntarily smiled. Soon after, he stood up. As the Thunder King did so, the noise in the square also decreased significantly. The first match of the second round of the Academy tournament began. As soon as he finished speaking, the atmosphere in the square instantly changed. The gazes of the spectators also changed, becoming much more excited. One of them was Wu Yan, who had passed the 5th level of the Tower of Tournament and had the strength to rank in the top 10. The other was Kester, who was ranked 11th and was not much inferior to the top 10. This match would perhaps become the most exciting match since the start of the Academy tournament. In the square, Wu Yan and Kester instantly exploded with an extraordinary aura. The two auras collided and produced an oppressive feeling that spread outwards, causing some of the lower-ranked students near the tall platform to hold their breaths. The tense atmosphere in the square maintained for a while. Finally, at a certain moment, it completely exploded. Chi. In an instant, a figure shot out like an arrow. Like a meteorite, it carried an indescribable force as it fiercely collided with another figure. Ding! In the center of the square, two figures crossed each other. The sharp spear in Kester's hand pierced out like lightning. However, a fist suddenly appeared and hit the surface of the spear. The spear was deflected and pierced into the thick floor beside Wu Yan. Kester's expression changed. He let out a soft cry and pulled out his spear. His figure flashed behind Wu Yan. Then, a continuous stream of spear shadows shot towards Wu Yan's back like raindrops. Wu Yan smiled indifferently. As if he did not feel the spear wind coming from behind him, he suddenly swung his hand behind him. A strong gust of wind directly tore the air apart. The sharp sound of wind breaking rang out, causing Kester's eardrums to feel a slight stinging pain. Ding, ding, ding. A continuous stream of weapons clashing rang out, causing Kester to be stunned. At this moment he finally saw clearly that a black iron sword had appeared in Wu Yan's hand. It was the Iron Sand Sword. Wu Yan grinned slyly and retreated in a hurry. The Iron Sand Sword in his hand was tossed into the air at the same time. It stopped above Wu Yan's head and the tip of the sword was pointed at Kester. On the viewing platform and high platform, many people cried out in surprise. Although there was only one Iron Sand Sword floating above Wu Yan's head, the scene of the black sword floating in the air and pointing straight at him was extremely familiar. Indeed, in the next moment, a wave of crimson spatial ripples spread out in the sky above the arena. The Iron Sand Sword floating above Wu Yan's head trembled slightly, as if it was sending out some kind of signal. At the same time, countless iron sand swords also trembled and slowly floated out from the crimson spatial ripples. Kester's hair stood on end. It had to be said that with so many black swords pointing at him, even a strong person like Kester could not help but feel his scalp go numb. Kester roared. He raised the spear in his hand and fiercely thrust it towards Wu Yan's position. No matter what Wu Yan wanted to do, in short, stopping him was definitely the right thing to do. However, Kester seemed to have taken everything for granted. An iron sand sword flew out from the crimson spatial ripples and arrived in front of the spear. The spear hit the iron sand sword, causing the iron sand sword to tremble and directly shatter into iron sand that filled the sky. In the end, although the iron sand sword had been strengthened by the Knight Never Dies by bare hands to become a D-grade equipment, a D-grade equipment was still a D-grade equipment. Under the all-out attack of a C-grade equipment and its owner, it would not be able to last for long. However, the iron sand sword's advantage was that it did not have a physical form. After a flash of lightning, the iron sand that filled the sky stopped falling in mid-air. Then, under everyone's gaze, the iron sand sword rotated and in the blink of an eye, a perfectly intact iron sand sword appeared in front of everyone once again. Kester's eyes bulged and he almost pinched his own thigh. He was vaguely going crazy in his heart. He could not destroy it, but he could not resist it either. How was he supposed to fight? Wu Yan grinned. Under Kester's shocked gaze, he suddenly activated the Gate of Babylon. Thousands of iron sand swords were like locusts passing through. Wherever they passed, regardless of whether it was the atmosphere or the rocks, they were all torn apart. Then they rushed towards Kester's figure and enveloped him. Boom, 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 boom. The iron sand swords turned into missiles. They cracked the floor of the arena and mercilessly exploded on Kester's body. A thick cloud of dust rose and enveloped Kester within it. No one could see what was happening inside clearly anymore. After a long time, the iron sand swords finally stopped their bombardment and flew back into the sky. They were absorbed into the crimson space and disappeared together with the crimson space. Everyone opened their eyes wide, trying to see the scene within the cloud of dust. However, the Thunder Emperor lightly smiled. He waved his hand and a light breeze blew past, dispersing the cloud of dust. When the cloud of dust completely dissipated, Kester's miserable figure was lying on the floor. He had already fainted. This match. Wu Yan wins. Wu Yan chuckled and looked at Kester. He muttered in his heart, "Who asked you to be a spearman?" Chapter 368. When Lei Wang announced the victory, Wu Yan leaped onto the stage. He ignored the admiring and fearful gazes and landed beside Chuju, Mikoto, and the others. Looking at Wu Yan standing in his original position, Bing Ling couldn't help but feel a bit gloomy. He didn't even look like he was out of breath. Although Kester's strength isn't in the top 10, he's definitely not far off. Being ranked 9th, Bing Ling knew that even if he were in Kester's shoes, it would be impossible for him to defeat Kester in such a short period of time without paying a price. Qing Jinhua couldn't help but look at the ice spirit worriedly. The ice spirit responded with a smile. After that, he fell into deep thought and muttered, "Looks like I have to think of a way to deal with that crimson space." The reason Wu Yan was able to defeat an opponent that even Bing Ling had to take seriously was because of the Gate of Babylon. The Gate of Babylon could not only shoot out the D-grade iron sand sword like a bullet, but it also had the ability to recycle it. Once the Gate of Babylon was activated, it would be a continuous attack. Plus, the Gate of Babylon is already a Grade C weapon. A Grade D iron sand sword under the Gate of Babylon's buff has unparalleled destructive power. To be able to defeat his opponent so quickly, the Gate of Babylon's contribution is not small. This is to be expected. Wu Yan was able to dominate the Holy Grail War with Golden Shine. If the Gate of Babylon was not outstanding, he would not have exchanged for it. Bing Ling is worthy of being called a strong fighter. After observing 2 or 3 battles with Wu Yan, he already had a rough idea of Wu Yan's Gate of Babylon. Bing Ling smiled and glanced at Wu Yan. "If it was someone else, they might have a headache because of your methods. Unfortunately, you met me. You met the Saito family's Ice Do Chi." Bing Mian heard this and couldn't help but smile. He was secretly glad that he had such a strong method. He relied on his armament. If not, even Bing Mian is starting to doubt his elder brother's abilities. After this, a few more battles took place. The audience's attention shifted away from Wu Yan. The arena returned to its lively state. Mikoto, Chuju, Feifei, Shokuho Misaki, and Estrella all fought once. Of course, their opponents were the weaker students. Mikoto, Chuju, and Estrella won easily. Shokuho Misaki and Fei Fei were even easier. They were drawn twice and won easily. They won't be participating in today's battles. It's a shame that the higher-ups of the academy have to decide if they can advance to the third round. Fei Fei and Shokuho Misaki. Shokuho Misaki is a winner. It's worth mentioning that one of Shokuho Misaki's opponents was Bing Mian. Of course, Bing Mian wasn't a small fry like Shokuho Misaki. Being able to rank in the top 30 meant that he had some skills. Shokuho Misaki's ability alone wasn't enough to make him her puppet. She can't control him, but her mind-reading ability isn't affected. Bing Mian was completely dumbfounded. After Shokuho Misaki told him everything about how old he was, this also made the audience very dissatisfied. It has to be said that in everyone's heart, there is a flame of gossip. They hope to find out the secrets, especially those famous people's gossips. Next round. Jaffer. The name that suddenly rang out in the square caused the entire place to quieten down. After they reacted, numerous gazes, regardless of whether it was from the viewing gallery or the tall platform, suddenly turned over. They paused on a corner of the tall platform, on the body of the tall man with a face as deep as water. Jaffer had been sitting there quietly. Whether it was yesterday or today, he would only make a move when it was his turn. Otherwise he would sit there like a statue, motionless. He didn't even open his eyes. At that moment, Jaffer finally opened his eyes slowly. In an instant, everyone witnessed the scene of a slumbering beast waking up. Jaffer. Prince of the Baruba Empire. The leader of the beast tide. The top 3 students of the Spalier World Academy. He stood up and slowly walked forward. As he moved, a ferocious aura impatiently gushed out of his body before he even stepped onto the platform. After arriving beside the railing, Saefei's feet suddenly stomped on the ground. His body was just like a bear as he suddenly descended from the sky. Finally he landed heavily on the ground. The hard ground where he landed was actually shattered into a pile of powder. Moreover, there were even some cracks that extended from his feet. So powerful. Wu Yan's expression froze. A trace of solemnity rose from his chest, making Wu Yan feel heavy. Wu Yan chuckled softly as he looked at Jaffer, who was standing below the platform. As expected of a rank 8 powerhouse. Meanwhile, Jaffer's opponent had also entered the arena with a solemn and slightly fearful look on his face. However, when he was 20 meters away from Jaffer, he didn't dare take another step forward. There was no other reason. It was simply because the aura that surged out from Jaffer was truly too terrifying. Suddenly, Jaffer's opponent seemed to see a ferocious demonic beast opening its mouth and swallowing him whole. This made him break out in a cold sweat. Jaffer won the first round before the fight even started. Saefei's body trembled slightly as he gently shook his head. A series of bone-cracking sounds were strangely emitted from within his body. Both of his hands were extended. His palms were unusually large, appearing just like the paws of a bear. They gave off an extremely pressuring feeling. As he slowly twisted them, sharp claws were revealed. A huge figure suddenly appeared behind Jaffer. Surprisingly, it was a magical beast that looked like a wolf. This time it was no longer an illusion. It was real. A figure had appeared. On the high platform, Kaya smiled, a bright light flashing in his eyes. Has Jaffer's beast battle technique reached the stage where it can manifest illusions? Looks like it'll be difficult to compete with him for second place. Kaya paused and turned to look at Mikoto and Sylph. He shook his head with a bitter smile. Maybe he should be competing for third place. At the same time on the stage, Jaffer suddenly moved. Along with the beast shadow behind him, he let out a roar. Unexpectedly, it was the roar of a beast. Then, Jaffer appeared in front of his opponent and swatted him viciously with his paw. Boom. Jaffer's opponent spat out a mouthful of blood and flew out of the stage. He smashed into the wall of the stage and fainted. One move. Just one move. Jaffer took down an advanced Tier 7 powerhouse with just one move. Wu Yan, Chuju, Mikoto, and Fei Fei looked at each other. They had a serious expression on their faces. Wu Yan, Chuju, and Fei Fei, who haven't reached Tier 8 yet, felt their hearts sink. Jaffer is strong. He's really strong. Wu Yan clenched his fist as he looked at Jaffer. Wu Yan's intuition tells him that he'll have to fight Jaffer. Wu Yan smiled when he saw Jaffer returning to the platform. His wine-red eyes were filled with traces of gold. His heart was filled with a rare desire to battle. However, the next moment, the list of names on the screen dissipated his desire to battle. Chapter 369. Next. Gue Chuju vs. Kashiwa. Following another matchup, everyone turned their heads to look at Hinajiku, who was standing beside Wu Yen on the high platform. Hinajiku seemed to be stunned for a moment before she laughed. Aya, what about the top 10 opponents? Mikoto couldn't help but ask when she saw Chuju's smile. Chuju, are you sure you're going to be okay? Chuju chuckled. Of course. Wu Yen went silent. He felt a bit helpless. If he could, he really didn't want Hinajiku to get out of this fight. He even had the thought of asking her to admit defeat. It's not that Wu Yen doesn't trust Chuju. Wu Yen saw how Chuju performed earlier. Even though Chuju can't beat Kashiwa in terms of level, Wu Yen thinks it's not impossible for her to win. But at the same time, it's not that easy to win. At the very least, he wanted to beat the top 10 without getting hurt. But he just couldn't get it up no matter how hard he tried. Wu Yen doesn't want Chuju to get hurt. Wu Yen looked up and realized that Chuju is looking at him. It's as if she can see through his thoughts. Her yellow-green eyes are filled with determination. That look. She's telling Wu Yen that Chuju wants to fight. Wu Yen looked at Chuju for a while and smiled bitterly. Don't force yourself. Finally, Hinajiku smiled and nodded heavily. Then, with a tap on the ground, she leaped off the high platform and onto the arena. Kashiwa is one step ahead. He's waiting for her there. Speaking of which, Chuju met Kashiwa when she first entered Spalier World Academy. At that time, he also brought members of Crimson Land with him. They came to the Villa District. He wanted to recruit Wu Yan's team. But after seeing Wu Yan's performance in the arena tower, Kashiwa didn't bring up the idea again. Now they're facing each other again on the arena. Kashiwa looked at the beautiful figure standing in front of him and shrugged. He tried to negotiate with Chuju. Can you admit defeat? I don't want to fight you. Hinajiku remained silent. She raised the crystal sword in her hand and pointed it at Bishi. The answer was obvious without the need for words. Kashiwa shrugged. Okay, I understand. A surge of Do Chi erupted from Bishi's body with a bang. Shockwaves spread in all directions and hit Hinajiku. Hinajiku's special student uniform fluttered in the wind, but her skirt miraculously didn't get blown up. In an instant, a large amount of combat energy gathered on Kashiwa's body. It made him look like a Super Saiyan. Hinajiku's pupils shrank as she thought to herself, it's coming. In the next moment, Bishi raised his right hand and threw a punch at Hinajiku. The moment he punched out, Bishi channeled all of his combat chi into his fist. After he punched out, the combat chi left his fist, and a powerful shockwave blasted towards Hinajiku under the crowd's shocked gasps. Chuju took a deep breath and placed both of her hands on White Cherry. She closed her eyes and opened them. Then her body swayed. Bang! Under everyone's gaze, the Do Chi wave directly hit Hinajiku's body. This time, before the audience could even scream, the Do Chi wave directly passed through Hinajiku's body and slammed into the stage. And Hinajiku's figure also disappeared. It was actually an afterimage. Ding! The sound of weapons colliding rang out. Chuju appeared beside Kashiwa with White Cherry in her hand. She swung her sword at Kashiwa. However, Kashiwa reacted quickly and blocked the attack. Kashiwa naturally wouldn't be able to block White Cherry, a rare armament, with his bare hands. The only reason he was able to block White Cherry was because of the Knight's sword that appeared out of nowhere. White Cherry and the Knight's sword were in a deadlock. Chuju gritted her teeth and smiled bitterly. She could feel the Knight's sword pressing down on her. She sighed in her heart. Sure enough, it's unrealistic for a girl to compete with a boy in terms of strength. It's not a good habit to be distracted in the middle of a battle. Before Chuju could react, Kashiwa's voice rang out. At the same time, a terrifying shockwave blasted Chuju's body away and threw her to the ground. Chuju's body somersaulted in the air and stabilized herself. She took a few steps on the ground and turned into an afterimage. Almost at the same time, Kashiwa suddenly turned around and raised his knight's sword to his shoulder. A powerful shockwave burst out from his body and wrapped around the sword. In the next moment, dozens of sword shadows appeared behind Bishi. Bishi swung his sword and the sword shadows shot out towards Hinajiku, who had turned into a blur and was rushing towards him. Ding, 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 ding. The sword shadows shot towards Kashiwa and the sound of weapons colliding with each other echoed throughout the square. It attracted the attention of most of the spectators. Seeing that Chuju was able to fight Kashiwa to this extent, the spectators cheered loudly. This made Kashiwa smile bitterly. Sure enough, the treatment of a beautiful girl is different. With that thought in mind, Kashiwa swung his knight's sword again and shot out a large number of sword shadows towards Chuju. From the looks of it, Kashiwa wants to kite Chuju and take her down. Chuju dodged the endless sword shadows at an extremely fast speed. She kept jumping up and down to get closer to Kashiwa. When she encountered a sword shadow that she couldn't dodge, she would use her white cherry blossom to knock it away. Those sword shadows may not be real, but they are still formed by Kashiwa's shockwave. If they hit, it would be no different from being pierced by a sharp weapon. However, Kashiwa gradually realized that his sword shadows didn't seem to be effective against Chuju. They didn't seem to be a threat at all. She was able to dodge them easily, and she was even getting closer to him. "You want to play close combat?" Kashiwa smirked as he watched Chuju getting closer to him. He reached out his right hand and scattered all the sword shadows. He then raised his knight's sword. "I might be afraid of Jaffer, but if I'm still afraid of a girl, then I'm not a man." Kashiwa slowly closed his eyes and unleashed his shockwave to cover the entire square. It's as if he wants to use his shockwave to replace his eyes. On Hinajiku's side, the sword shadows suddenly stopped and disappeared. Hinajiku couldn't help but be stunned for a moment when the shadows disappeared. Chance. Bishi opened his eyes and saw Hinajiku in a daze. In a flash, he appeared in front of Hinajiku and swung his sword at a strange angle towards Hinajiku's body. The knight's sword whistled through the air and the sound of wind breaking rang in Chuju's ears. Chuju's pupils shrank as she realized her mistake. Chuju bit the tip of her tongue and forced herself to react. Then Chuju finally moved. Kashiwa's knight's sword was less than a centimeter away from Chuju's body. Kashiwa was about to tilt his sword when Chuju turned her body. The beautiful crystal sword followed Chuju's movement and drew a beautiful arc in the air. Then it appeared in front of Kashiwa's knight's sword. Under such circumstances, Chuju's quick action allowed her to block Kashiwa's attack. Kashiwa couldn't help but praise. If Chuju had raised her sword to block Kashiwa's attack, it would have been too late. But when she turned around, the crystal sword moved even faster due to the centripetal force. Kashiwa managed to break through Chuju's weak point and successfully turn the situation around. On the stage, Mikoto, Wu Yen, Feifei, Lulu and Flandre-chan were cheering. Chapter 370. Clang. The sound of swords clashing against each other has been heard for the umpteenth time. The battle between Bishi and Chuju has turned into two kendo masters. Every time they clashed against each other, when the audience thought that one of them would be unstoppable, the other would be able to block the attack. It's very exciting. At this moment, from the spectators' stands, countless cheers rang out, dedicating it to the two fighters on the stage. It has to be said that at this moment, Hinajiku had finally changed the students' impression of her. Now, in the hearts of the students, none of the new special students are easy to bully. Each and every one of them is strong. Of course, Flandre-chan's power is sealed. But no one would expect a child to surprise them. On the stage, Chuju used a combo of sword thrusts. In less than a second, Chuju actually attacked 5 times in a row. The terrifying power of the 5 slashes made Bishi take a step back. Without giving Bishi a chance to breathe, Chuju frowned and disappeared from the spot. She entered into a sprinting state. Her pink hair swayed back and forth as she moved at high speed. She looked like a cherry blossom on the battlefield, very attractive. It's just that Bishi's strength is slightly stronger than Hinajiku's. So, almost at the same time he was knocked back, Hinajiku's figure appeared right in front of him. Bishi raised his sword and pointed it straight at her. As Bishi raised his sword, the slender blade of the sword suddenly flashed with a dazzling light of combat chi. Then a terrifying wave of combat chi was released from the knight's sword. The golden combat chi was as bright as the sun. The golden wave of do chi was like a beam of light. Along with a huge wave of energy, it formed a straight line and viciously blasted towards Hinajiku, whose expression had changed slightly. "Be careful." On the stage, Wu Yen saw this scene and couldn't help but shout out. His hand gripped the railing tightly. His heart was filled with anxiety. Unlike Bishi, who relies on his powerful do chi to unleash a huge amount of power, Chuju's every move is different. All of her moves are supported by her own strength. In terms of techniques, Chuju is undoubtedly weaker. What she knows is only the sword skills she learned from the club when she was a student. This kind of pure sword skills has become very powerful after Chuju's upgrade. However, while pure sword skills can unleash a great amount of power, its drawbacks are very obvious. She must get close to the opponent and there's not much mystery behind it. That's why Hinajiku might not be able to handle Bishi's attack with his do chi support. That's why I'm worried. As if she felt Wu Yan's gaze, Chuju couldn't help but turn her head to look at Wu Yan. Naturally, she saw the worry on Wu Yan's face. At this moment, it's as if time has stopped. Chuju, who is exposed to the wave of do chi, is staring at Wu Yan. A strange light flashed in her yellow-green eyes. I don't want to see your worried face anymore. But Yin, please allow me to be stubborn one more time. Under the reflection of the Do-Chi wave, a determined look flashed across Hinajiku's face, and the white cherry sword in her hand suddenly flashed with a thick flash of sword light. Ha! Hinajiku snorted. Grabbing white cherry, she retreated instead of advancing. Under the shocked gazes of the audience, the crystal sword in her hand violently slashed towards the incoming Do-Chi wave. Chuju! Wu Yen, Mikoto, Feifei, Lulu and the others couldn't help but exclaim. Bang! The wave of Do-Chi collided with the crystal sword. The terrifying force made Chuju groan. Even her chest felt a little stuffy. However, Chuju didn't back down. Instead, she shouted again. She stomped her feet on the ground and with both hands on the hilt, she pushed forward with all her might. Under Chuju's forceful push, the edge of the wave of Do-Chi that made contact with the crystal sword actually cracked open. Oi, are you kidding me? Bishi's jaw dropped as he watched his own Do-Chi being torn apart. He had a bad feeling about this. Before Bishi could react, Chuju, who was under the attack of the wave of Do-Chi, once again gritted her teeth. With a loud shout, the crystal sword in her hand fiercely pierced downwards. The wave of Do-Chi was cut in half by the crystal sword like a rag. The two halves of the wave of Do-Chi flew past Chuju and into the distance. Bishi almost cursed out loud. What kind of joke is this? He released his Do-Chi with all his strength and it was cut in half like a rag. No one would be able to stay calm if they were in his shoes. Bishi didn't even notice that Chuju didn't stop her actions. Chuju loosened her grip on the wave of Do-Chi. As a result, Chuju's white cherry didn't slow down and it flew straight towards Bishi. Bishi's expression changed and he quickly retreated. But this time, Bishi was facing the same situation as Chuju. It's too late to retreat now. The crystal sword's tip pierced towards Bishi's pupils. Bishi's pupils shrunk to the size of the crystal sword's tip. In an instant, Bishi didn't have enough time to raise his sword. He wanted to mimic Chuju and turn around but he wasn't as agile as her. That's why Bishi could only use all of his Do-Chi. Ignoring the burden on his body, he ignited his Do-Chi and used it to blow away the incoming crystal sword. It must be said that this method was not bad. After all, the crystal sword was thrown by Hinajiku. It did not have that much power, so it was easily blown away. But if Bishi could think of this, how could Chuju not think of it? Pa! When this sound entered Bishi's ears, everything was set in stone. Bishi's expression changed when he saw Chuju suddenly appearing in front of him and holding the crystal sword in her hand. In the next moment, Chuju's crystal sword slammed into his body. Bang! The crystal sword slammed into Bishi's chest and sent him flying. He landed on the ground not far away. Bishi endured the pain in his chest and got up from the ground. The crystal sword appeared in front of him again, but this time, it's pointing at his forehead. The entire place went silent. Bishi stared blankly at the crystal sword in front of him and the pale-faced Hinajiku who was holding the sword with only one hand. He couldn't help but let out a bitter laugh and said bitterly, I lost. The words I've lost reverberated in the silent square. The audience looked at each other and then they cheered loudly. At this moment, Chuju won everyone's cheers. Phew. Everyone on the stage let out a sigh of relief. They looked at each other and smiled. What a nimble little girl. The Thunder King couldn't help but laugh. She's not weak and she's smart. She knows how to use strange moves. Not bad. I knew it. Those who are with her are not simple people. The group of higher-ups also nodded slowly as if they were praising Hinajiku. Lei Wang stood up and announced, Gui Chuju wins this match. The audience cheered when they heard Lei Wang's announcement. Another person who can be ranked in the top 10 has appeared in front of them. Moreover, she's a newcomer. At the same time, Chuju received hugs and cheers from her friends. Wu Yan's heart ached when he saw Chuju's pale face. He reached out and caressed her face. Rest well? Hinajiku nodded and smiled. She closed her eyes and rubbed against Wu Yan's hand that is caressing her face. Chapter 371. The cheers were still ringing in the air. Hinajiku and Bishi's battle had brought the atmosphere to its climax. Even the contestants on the stage were burning with passion. They couldn't wait to get down the stage and have a good fight. Towards the end, the spectators couldn't tell who they were cheering for. They just kept on giving vent to the passion in their hearts. They didn't even look at who they were cheering for. After this academy competition, I'm afraid that many people's throats will need to be treated. Of course, the actions of the audience were not completely blind. The result of this was that every student who went down to battle displayed 120% of their strength under the cheers of the audience. This caused some of the battles that were originally not anticipated to be in full swing. Their combat aura and magic power soared to the breaking point, winning the unanimous praise of the audience and even the higher-ups. At this moment, on the arena, two students who were originally ranked in the top 80 seemed to have gulped down an entire bottle of Jinkala. They fought until their eyes were red, and the strength they displayed made even some of the students ranked in the top 50 involuntarily swallow a mouthful of saliva. Wu Yan was speechless. The effect of the atmosphere is really heaven-defying. Half a day has passed since the second day of the tournament. During this time, other than Shokuho Misaki, Hinajiku, and Fei Fei, who had already completed their mission and completed their 2 matches, there was no one left. Mikoto and Astria also went up to the stage and completed 2 battles. Astria fought against a contestant who was ranked in the top 10 just like Chuju. That contestant was ranked higher than Bishi. Even though he didn't make it into the top 5, he was still ranked 6th. However, Astria isn't Chuju. She is the highest ranked contestant in this tournament. Astria gave the audience a good show of the dog-beating stick technique. She used her Chrysor as a stick and smacked her opponent's head repeatedly until he fainted. Only then did Astria stop. This scene. Naturally, it also caused the top 10 experts to feel a chill in their hearts. It wasn't just because of Astria's strength, it was also because of Astria's relentless fighting spirit. This caused them to look at each other in dismay. They couldn't help but rejoice in their hearts. Fortunately, the opponent had already finished 2 rounds. One has to admit that the power of a foodie is great. Under the punishment of no food, appetite can be turned into strength. Of course, Sylph, Ka, and Jaffer kept glancing at Astria with a heavy heart. That's to be expected. Originally, the 3 of them were the only ones who reached Tier 8 in Silveria World Institute. Who would have thought that in less than a month, Misaka Mikoto, the short-lived Ikaros, and now Asteria. Since when did Tier 8 become so cheap? Kaya smiled bitterly, but at the same time he sighed. The world was a big place. He had thought that reaching the 8th level before the age of 25 meant that his talent was at the peak of the world of Silveria. Who would have guessed? Ka didn't know that his talent was indeed at the peak of this world. Unfortunately, Mikoto, Ikaros, and Astria aren't from this world. Ka, who didn't know what's going on, was already thinking about how to lure these people to the Fea Empire's car. Unlike Ka, Sylph glanced at Astria and didn't say anything. Of course, the icy princess wouldn't show her thoughts. As for Jaffer, he looked at Astria for a moment before he humphed and turned his head away. Since the start of the tournament, Wu Yan's group, other than Wu Yan, has already fought 2 rounds. Now they just have to wait for the results. Soon Wu Yan will be fighting his 2nd match. His opponent made Wu Yan laugh out loud. Next match. Wu Yan versus Bing Ling. The cheers of the audience suddenly stopped at this moment. The audience stared with their eyes wide open. After carefully looking at the 2 names on the crystal ball projection screen and confirming that there were no mistakes, an earth-shattering cheer rang out again. Wu Yan and Bing Ling looked at each other. Their eyes were filled with emotions unknown to others. It's been less than a month since their last match. Finally, they have a chance to fight again. The unfinished battle at the arena tower is going to continue. The only difference is that Wu Yan has Gate of Babylon. He's stronger now. Big brother? Bing Mian couldn't help but yell. He clenched his fists tightly. Bing Mian wanted his big brother to teach Wu Yan a lesson, but he didn't know what to do. Like Bing Mian, Qing Jinhua grabbed Bing Ling's sleeve. Her eyes were filled with worry. Wu Yan's strength is something they both witnessed firsthand. Bing Ling waved his hand to stop the 2 from talking. He looked at Wu Yan and without saying anything, he stepped on the railing and jumped onto the stage. Wu Yan smiled. Mikoto, Chuju, Feifei, Lulu, Flandre-chan, and Ikaros all looked at Wu Yan. Good luck, Oniai-chan, Yen. Flandre-chan and Lulu cheered. We have to teach that bastard a lesson this time. Mikoto said. Be careful. Feifei and Chuju said to Wu Yan. Wu Yan returned the grin and he flew towards the stage. Wu Yan didn't really care about the fight with Bing Ling, but he didn't feel too much of a reaction either. He has the true ancestor bloodline, infinite martial arts, and Gate of Babylon. If he lost to an opponent of the same level, even Wu Yan wouldn't be able to forgive himself. On the wide stage, the 2 of them looked at each other from afar. Both of them wore the same special student uniform, but they were different figures. They looked exceptionally dazzling in this monotonous arena. Of course, a large part of the dazzling scene is because of their identities. More specifically, it's because of the grudge between the 2 of them. Back in the arena tower, Bing Mian got slapped in the face by Wu Yan in front of everyone. Bing Ling wanted to save his brother, so he interfered with the duel. After the duel, he even challenged a newcomer as a top 10 ranker to redeem Bing Mian's reputation. Many people booed him for his actions. Compared to Bing Ling, Wu Yan is a lot more carefree. All he wants is to complete the 2 sudden quests from the system. He doesn't care who his opponent is, what kind of people they are, what kind of evaluation they get, none of that matters to him. That battle was stopped by Princess Sylph due to Liren's careless interference. Now the same battle is happening again. At least in the eyes of the bystanders, this battle is something to be excited about due to the fact that there is an inside story behind it. That's why the audience is boiling with excitement. Bing Ling looked at Wu Yan, who is standing opposite of him. Unlike before, he didn't take this matter seriously. Now, he is looking at the figure not far away with a serious expression. Bing Ling no longer dares to look at Wu Yan as a newcomer. It's obvious that Wu Yan is very strong. At first glance, he's stronger than Bing Ling. At least, from the past 2 days of competition, it's clear that Wu Yan hid an armament that can throw armaments. Bing Ling doesn't know that the Gate of Babylon was something Wu Yan exchanged for after the duel. That's why he thought Wu Yan was hiding his strength. Fortunately, Bing Ling had other tricks up his sleeve that worked on Wu Yan as well. Chapter 372. Bing Ling raised his head and he looked at Wu Yan, who had an indifferent look on his face. Bing Ling's face slowly curled up into an enigmatic smile. Under the watchful eyes of the crowd, Bing Ling suddenly said, "Very strong, that armament of yours?" Wu Yan flinched for a moment before laughing out loud. "You can tell that it's an armament? No wonder you're in the top 10 of the academy." Bing Ling glanced at Wu Yan and continued, "To be honest, even I don't have the confidence to deal with that armament of yours. Whether it's strength, speed, or defense, it's not bad at all. It even has recovery ability. It's really troublesome." Wu Yan frowned and looked at Bing Ling. This guy, why is he saying this? Does he have the personality to boost the morale of others and diminish his own? As if he saw through Wu Yan's thoughts, Bing Ling shook his head and laughed out loud. "Wu Yan, that armament of yours is troublesome, but that's all there is to it. Against me, no, against the Saito family's Ice Do Chi, you shouldn't have used an armament." After saying that, Bing Ling's eyes flashed. She flipped her hands and 2 icy blue daggers appeared in her hands. They glowed with a chilling light. They were Bing Ling's rare armament. The dagger in the ice spirit's hand spun in all kinds of dazzling arcs. It was like 2 auroras, nimbly streaking across the void, and then slowly intertwining with each other. With a light stroke, sparks shot out, but it brought along a chilling luster. After which, a dense ice blue do chi surged out from within Bing Mian's body. After which, it wrapped around Bing Mian's entire body. The icy blue do chi began to spread. Finally, it turned into a ball of do chi. It slowly shrank and expanded as if it was brewing something. It was extremely strange. Looking at Bing Ling's actions, Wu Yan's heart. Suddenly, a sense of vigilance rose in his heart. His eyebrows slightly furrowed. This scene was similar to what the ice spirit had wanted to do in the Tower of Tournament. However, he was interrupted by Sylph at that time. Now that he's seeing her again, and with Bing Ling's words, Wu Yan has a feeling that this battle is going to be more troublesome than he thought. Freezing wind. A deep and cold shout suddenly came out from the ice blue do chi mass. Immediately after, the ice blue do chi mass suddenly soared into the sky and floated in the middle of the field. On the high platform, some of the top 10 experts had already narrowed their eyes. Obviously, they recognized what Bing Ling was going to use next. Some of the people who had seen it before exclaimed in unison. The ball of do chi exploded in mid-air, countless icy blue rays shot out from it and enveloped the entire stage in the blink of an eye. Wu Yan's expression froze. He looked at the icy blue rays he saw in the last battle. His wine-red eyes narrowed. Wu Yan's intuition told him that the icy blue rays this time are different from the last one. A bad feeling crept into Wu Yan's heart. Wu Yan narrowed his eyes and looked at the icy blue rays in mid-air. "Something bad is about to happen. I don't care. Let's make the first move." With a snap of his fingers, the familiar crimson space appeared again. Thousands of iron sand swords slowly emerged, but in the next moment Wu Yan's body suddenly froze. He was completely stunned. When his Gate of Babylon appeared, the strange icy blue rays shot towards the Gate of Babylon at an unimaginable speed, like bees that saw honey. They even enveloped the Gate of Babylon. Then, under the gaze of the audience, the iron sand swords on the Gate of Babylon started to freeze at a speed visible to the naked eye, turning into a ball of ice that covered the entire sky. Wu Yan was shocked. Bing Ling also had a surprised look on his face. He looked at the crimson space and said with a little surprise, "What a strange armament. The freezing wind that is specially used to deal with armaments can't freeze it." Then the ice spirit's tone changed again. "Well, it doesn't matter. Anyway, without those black swords, your crimson space is useless even if it can still be used." Hearing this, Wu Yan's face darkened. He didn't expect this guy to have such a trick up his sleeve. But then Wu Yan laughed. If Bing Ling thinks that his strength is only at the gate of Babylon, then he should prepare to fight. With a wave of his hand, the gate of Babylon disappeared along with the frozen iron sand swords. Seeing this, the ice spirit couldn't help but laugh. Raising the 2 daggers in his hand, the ice spirit sneered. "Next, let me see what other tricks you have up your sleeve." Bing Ling's body suddenly shot out at an incredible speed, the sharp daggers in his hand stabbing towards Wu Yan's arms. Wu Yan took a step back and his expression changed. He bitterly smiled when he saw the ice spirit closing in on him. He almost forgot that the ice blue light can affect a person's speed. By now, Bing Ling was already in front of Wu Yan. Wu Yan clenched his fist and the Neongyen Shana appeared in his hand. But soon Wu Yan frowned slightly. The Neongyen Shana in his hand is slowly freezing. "It's useless." Bing Ling held the 2 daggers tightly and looked at Wu Yan, who was not far away. He suddenly accelerated and rushed towards Wu Yan. "This is a little troublesome." Wu Yan's wine-red eyes stared at Bing Ling. He suddenly smiled and grabbed the Neongyen Shana. Bing Ling was stunned when the Neongyen Shana suddenly trembled. Then a flame that looked like a red lotus started burning from the blade of the Neongyen Shana. The flame burned slowly, and the ice around the blade of the Neongyen Shana evaporated into gas. The flaming blade of the Neongyen Shana appeared in front of the ice spirit. The sudden change caused Bing Ling's face to change slightly. His eyes darkened. Obviously, he didn't expect Wu Yan's armament to have such an ability. Moreover, it was the fire element that countered his ice do chi. An eye for an eye. This time, it was Wu Yan's turn to give Bing Ling a surprise. The students in the spectator stands were in an uproar when they saw the flaming Neongyen Shana in Wu Yan's hand. After all, this armament appeared in the arena tower before. It was just that there was no flame at that time. On the special stands, Lei Wang shook his head with a smile. "This kid has so many tricks up his sleeves. Where did he learn them from? Is he some old guy's disciple?" On the high stands, Bing Mian and Qing Jinhua's faces were ugly. Fei Fei and Lulu were also surprised. Only Chuju and Mikoto looked at each other and smiled. A single armament was enough to make them so surprised. If he were to bring out the meteor shower, who knew what kind of expression they would have? Bing Ling stopped in her tracks. She looked at the Nayatan Shana in Wu Yan's hand and her expression kept changing. The Saito family's ice do chi is very special. It can affect a person's speed. It can also restrict an armament. However, it also has an obvious weakness. When ice meets fire, the result is obvious. Wu Yan raised the Neongyen Shana and brushed it lightly. The flames seemed to be able to recognize people and didn't hurt Wu Yan's hand. Wu Yan grinned as he looked at Bing Ling. A glint flashed across his eyes. "Sa, don't stop, continue." Wu Yan appeared in front of Bing Ling in an instant. Chapter 373. When the blurry shadow appeared in Bing Ling's eyes, he quickly moved his left foot. His body moved like an ice skater as he nimbly dodged across the floor. As Bing Ling dodged, the burning red lotus fire brushed past his face. The scorching flames brushed past Bing Ling's face, causing his face to burn with heat. However, in the next moment an Dianzhan Na suddenly paused. Its downward slash stopped abruptly. The sword twisted and changed from a slash to a sweep. It swept towards Bing Ling's waist. Wu Yan's sudden change in attack was far beyond Bing Ling's expectations. Hence, when Dianzhan Na changed its direction, his face broke out in cold sweat. At this critical moment, the icy blue light that covered the arena automatically slid down and brushed past Dianzhan Na's sword, causing an icy mist to form on Dianzhan Na. Although it quickly disappeared under the red lotus flame, it still caused Dianzhan Na to pause for a moment, allowing Bing Ling to dodge. Bing Ling's expression turned vicious. His body suddenly crouched and his body flashed strangely. In an instant he appeared under Wu Yan. His arms shook and the icy blue dagger with a cold gust of wind pierced towards Wu Yan's chest. Bang! Just as the dagger was about to reach Wu Yan's body, a strong flame suddenly ignited on Dianzhan Na. It caused the do chi on Bing Ling's dagger to become sluggish. Wu Yan borrowed the force and leaped backwards, escaping Bing Ling's attack range. Bing Ling's mouth twitched. He originally planned to use his ice do chi to restrain Wu Yan's armament. Who would have thought that Wu Yan's armament would restrain his ice do chi instead? This battle was so depressing. The ice spirit was the only one who knew, however. In the eyes of the bystanders, this battle was like a lightning strike. It was abnormally dangerous and exciting. The crowd was instantly mesmerized by this exciting battle. Their eyes were burning hot. Cheers could be heard everywhere. Wu Yan, on the other hand, was frowning slightly. Looking at the floating ice blue light, he felt a little helpless. These icy blue streamers not only restricted his gate of Babylon, but also affected his speed. And from the scene just now, they seemed to have the ability to protect their owner, which really surprised Wu Yan. Wu Yan didn't know that there would be so many restrictions when fighting with the ice spirit. Ice do chi is really annoying. Wu Yan's eyes flickered. Looking at the ice blue flowing light on the battlefield, he felt a little impatient. In a battle with so many restrictions, the one who should be depressed should be him. A golden light flashed in his eyes, and an electric arc flashed on Wu Yan's forehead. However, Wu Yan suddenly paused and the golden light in his eyes disappeared. He glanced at the flames on the Nyangyan Shana sword, and an idea popped into his mind. Since these icy blue streaks of light couldn't be dealt with by physical attacks, could they be destroyed by flames that could restrain them? Moreover, he could also test the power of the Nyangyan Shana sword, which had become a treasure artifact. With this thought in mind, Wu Yan didn't hesitate. The Nyangyan Shana sword in his hand trembled slightly. Immediately, tiny red lotus flames flashed out from the sword, and with the appearance of these flames, the temperature of the battlefield suddenly rose by a lot. On the opposite side, the ice spirit looked at the dozens of red lotus flames, and his expression changed slightly. His heart sank a little. Originally, he thought that the flames were just an additional effect of Wu Yan's armament. He didn't expect that they could be controlled. At this moment, Wu Yan also moved. Wu Yan raised the Nyangyan Shana sword horizontally above his chest. He looked at the small red lotus flames on the sword, and with a flick of his finger, more than a dozen tiny red lotus flames shot towards the battlefield. Feeling the terrifying temperature of the oncoming red lotus flames, Bing Ling retracted his daggers and twisted his body to dodge. However, the red lotus flames did not directly attack Bing Ling. Instead, they rapidly shuttled back and forth above the arena. Following the red lotus flames' actions, the icy blue flowing light that enveloped the entire arena began to shrink at a speed visible to the naked eye due to the terrifying temperature. The ice spirit's expression changed drastically. On the high platform, Bing Mian and Qing Jinhua exclaimed when they saw the shrinking icy blue streaks of light. Sylph, Kaya, Jaffer, and the others withdrew their gazes as if they already knew the outcome. To be honest, this method isn't that rare. Anyone with a brain problem would know that one must use fire to deal with ice. However, those who tried to use fire to deal with the ice spirit's icy blue streaks of light ended up in a pitiful state. Their flames aren't as hot as Wu Yan's red lotus flames. Before they could extinguish the streaks of light, they were defeated by the ice spirit before they could do anything. The ice spirit knows the weakness of his ice do chi. That's why he would usually choose to end the battle as quickly as possible. That's exactly what he's thinking right now. He wants to defeat Wu Yan before Wu Yan extinguishes the streaks of light. However, just as the ice spirit had this thought, he heard a slight gust of wind. Then, a blurry black figure appeared in front of him. The ice spirit's expression changed again and again. At this time, Wu Yan's Nin Temple Shana is already swinging down with a ferocious force. The ice spirit's eyes sharpened as he swung his daggers. Instantly, an icy blue streak of light fell from the sky and collided with the Nin Temple Shana. Pfft. The moment the two collided, the Nin Temple Shana shattered the icy blue streak of light into a mist. However, when the Nin Temple Shana landed on the ground, the ice spirit had already retreated. Then Wu Yan saw the ice spirit, who had retreated a few steps, pounce at him again with lightning speed. The daggers were spinning rapidly between his fingers. They were like two poisonous snakes that could easily kill a person as they cut through the air. Wu Yan raised his eyebrows when he saw that the ice spirit had chosen to charge at him head-on. He tightened his grip on the Nin Temple Shana, and smiled faintly. Then the Nin Temple Shana viciously stabbed forward. Due to the frightening temperature of the red lotus flame on the Inai Zana, it directly caused the air to burn wherever the Inai Zana passed. A low and deep air explosion sounded. It was extremely ear-piercing. The distance between the two was covered in the blink of an eye due to this attack. However, just as the daggers were about to come into contact with the Nine Temple Shana, the ice spirit's body suddenly twisted. His body moved in a strange manner, sticking close to the Nine Temple Shana, as he appeared at the spot where Wu Yan was holding the sword. The sharp daggers in his hands unceremoniously sliced towards Wu Yan's palm. Seeing the sudden change in the situation, the entire crowd gasped. At such a close distance, the Nine Temple Shana had already made up his mind. There was almost no way to pull back. Under normal circumstances, Wu Yan would probably be left with a few deep wounds by the ice spirit's cunning and ruthless ice-like daggers. Then he would be defeated. While the crowd gasped, only Chuju and Mikoto on the high platform frowned. They were a little confused. With Wu Yan's miraculous infinite martial refining, how could he reveal a flaw so easily? Looking at Wu Yan, who was about to be defeated by the ice spirit, Bing Mian and Qing Jinhua's faces were filled with excitement. They almost cheered out loud. However, the Thunder King on the special high platform laughed. Some of the more observant people who had been paying attention to Wu Yan also noticed that there was not a trace of panic on Wu Yan's face. In fact, there was even a faint trace of a strange smile. Immediately, their hearts trembled slightly. In the arena, under the countless attentive gazes, the ice spirit's daggers instantly neared Wu Yan's sword-wielding hand. A cold gust of wind blew against Wu Yan's arm. As the daggers neared Wu Yan's hand, the ice spirit's heart gradually grew uneasy. Chapter 374. As the dagger got closer, Bing Ling's uneasiness turned into reality. When the dagger was only a centimeter away from piercing his hand, Wu Yan finally made his move again. He didn't use any surprising method to counterattack, nor did he use any unexpected method. Wu Yan gently let go of Nyeta no Shana and let it fall to the ground with a crisp ding-dang sound. Countless people were stunned. What is this? Without the support of the armament that could use flames, was there even a need to continue this battle? Does Wu Yan still have a way to win against Bing Ling? While everyone was having this thought, Mikoto smiled. Because at this moment, the electromagnetic field of her Electromancer ability suddenly fluctuated. Bing Ling's face showed a trace of hesitation. He didn't understand why Wu Yan would give up on restraining his armament. Based on his impression of Wu Yan, he shouldn't be such an unwise person. However, at this time, Bing Ling would be able to stab the opponent's hand in less than a second. She didn't have time to think too much. Thus, Bing Ling's expression hardened. The dagger in her hand was suddenly enveloped by ice blue do qi. Threads of cold air wrapped around the dagger, and a cold wind suddenly grew stronger. Ice dagger. Ice Spirit's pair of daggers started to vibrate at a strange speed. Ice Spirit's voice was cold and oppressive. As the daggers trembled, the strands of cold air surrounding them shot out as if they had a mind of their own, converging into a long ice dagger. This was the ice dagger battle technique that Bing Mian had used before. But it's clear that Bing Ling's actions didn't cause Wu Yan to panic. Suddenly Wu Yan's body trembled. A series of rapid electrical sounds exploded. At the same time, a bluish-white electric current surged out from his body and covered his entire body. As his body was covered by electricity, outside of Wu Yan's body, rapidly flashing electricity intertwined and struck. In the blink of an eye, above the bluish-white electric current, there was a temperature no lower than the red lotus flames. Electricity could also produce heat. Qi. The long ice dagger collided heavily with the lightning. However, it was as though an ice cube had met with boiling water. Sizzling sounds continuously rang out. After that, the ice daggers that were originally capable of piercing through huge rocks were instantly reduced at a speed visible to the naked eye. In the end, two daggers appeared in their original state. Naturally, their power was completely gone. The ice spirit's pupils shrank as he looked at the lightning on Wu Yan's body. He had almost forgotten that Wu Yan had used the power of lightning in the Tower of Arena. Seeing that the dagger was only a short distance away from Wu Yan's body, Bing Ling's eyes flashed with unwillingness. Do Qi suddenly burst out and the dagger turned into two cold lights. With lightning speed, it fiercely stabbed into Wu Yan's body. However, in exchange for the dagger's stab, two clear metallic sounds rang out. This caused Bing Ling's heart to shrink, and an expression of disbelief appeared on his face. Because in front of the dagger, there were two iron sand swords that suddenly appeared from Wu Yan's side. At this moment, Bing Ling finally realized that his freezing wind had been eliminated by the red lotus flames. In other words, the Gate of Babylon, or more accurately the iron sand swords, can also be used. It has to be said that the strength of Bing Ling's two daggers, under the support of his Do Qi, is extremely terrifying. Even though the daggers are good at penetrating and have less destructive power, they still pierce through the iron sand swords. However, this is the end. A dense electric glow suddenly flashed on the metal sand sword. In an instant, it caused the icy blue dagger in Bing Ling's hand to turn fiery red. A chi-chi sound was emitted from Bing Ling's hand, which was tightly holding the dagger. This caused Bing Ling's expression to change drastically. He hurriedly maneuvered his do chi and wrapped his hand around it. Even though this was the case, he still felt a searing pain moving around his hand. He viciously pushed the dagger in his hand, but it did not move an inch forward. Helplessly, Bing Ling could only let go of the dagger and retreat. As he retreated, his eyes were still fixed on Wu Yan, who was wrapped in lightning, and his heart was filled with anger. The lightning that enveloped Wu Yan's body suddenly dissipated, revealing Wu Yan's figure. However, when Bing Ling saw Wu Yan's figure clearly, his angry expression immediately darkened. At this moment, one of Wu Yan's hands was stretched straight towards him. Moreover, Wu Yan even made a finger-snapping gesture. He looked at Bing Ling with a mocking expression. This caused Bing Ling to feel a chill down his spine. Seeing Wu Yan's appearance, Bing Ling, who was rapidly retreating, felt his heart tremble. His body suddenly stopped. At this moment, Wu Yan suddenly snapped his fingers. A soft but unusually clear snapping sound rang out in the entire square. Gate of Babylon, a soft whisper slowly came out from Wu Yan's mouth. It was like a circle of sound waves that stirred up ripples. The ripples spread out like lightning and instantly covered everything behind Wu Yan. Under Bing Ling's shocked gaze, the crimson space that covered the entire square appeared once again. At the same time, black iron sand swords extended from the Gate of Babylon, and pointed at Bing Ling from afar. A chill suddenly spread from Bing Ling's spine, causing his entire body to feel cold. Even his hands and feet turned cold. In the next moment, Wu Yan's hand also swung down. An endless stream of iron sand swords covered Bing Ling's body like raindrops. Bing Ling roared and mobilized all his do chi to cover his entire body. The black sword slammed into Bing Ling's body, causing Bing Ling's face to turn pale. His chest felt heavy, and a trace of blood slowly flowed out from the corner of his mouth. Under the barrage of attacks from the iron sand swords, Bing Ling was finally injured, and it was not light. Of course, if he did not have do chi to protect his body, it would not be as simple as just being injured. However, Bing Ling did not rejoice. Instead, his face changed greatly because Wu Yan's figure had already appeared in front of him like a ghost. Looking at this scene, the hearts of everyone present suddenly rose. A portion of the people's mouths had already formed the shape of a cry of surprise. Looking at the shocked Bing Ling in front of him, Wu Yan said softly, causing Bing Ling's face to turn completely pale, "You've lost, I've won." After saying this, Wu Yan's eyes focused. An extremely strong gust of wind emerged from his hand, accompanied by a low explosive sound that resounded throughout the square. Lightning fist. Oh. Hearing the sound in the square and seeing Wu Yan's shout, Bing Mian, who was previously excited and looking forward to Bing Ling beating Wu Yan to the ground and begging for mercy, suddenly screamed out loud. Qing Jinoa's cheeks instantly turned pale and her mouth kept muttering, "How is this possible?" Under the watchful eyes of the crowd, the fist, which was wrapped in lightning, seemed to break through the barriers of space. It carried an unparalleled force and power as it heavily smashed into the chest of the shocked Bing Ling. An earth-shattering force, along with the power of lightning, surged out wildly. Bang! When the intense pain came, Bing Ling's shocked face flushed red. A mouthful of bright red blood violently spurted out from his mouth. His body flew backwards as if he had suffered a heavy blow. In the end, he landed heavily on the ground outside the square, causing cracks to appear on the ground. Bing Ling's face was deathly pale. All the strength in his body seemed to have left him at this moment, causing him to be unable to stand up from the ground. He could only lie there and look up at Wu Yan on the stage, his heart filled with bitterness. Slowly stepping forward, Wu Yan indifferently looked outside the square at the deathly pale Bing Ling. He smiled slightly and stretched before looking at the Thunder Emperor. The Thunder Emperor shook his head with a smile and raised his hand. "This match, Wu Yan wins." Chapter 376. There were no clouds in the sky. The moon shone like a silver plate with stars twinkling in the night sky. Moonlight shone down from the sky and covered the entire Silveria World Institute with a layer of silver gauze. Even if it was night time, it wouldn't be as cold as one would imagine. It was only the second round of the Academy tournament, and it was already so exciting that it made their hearts so restless. If it was the third round, when the real battles between the top 10 powerhouses began, wouldn't it be even worse? At this moment, they were already secretly looking forward to the third round of the Academy tournament. Apart from these students, the contestants were the same. They couldn't sleep. Among them, the leaders of the major forces were vexed. They were vexed that they couldn't enter the top 10. What was it about them that they couldn't compete with others? However, some of them knew clearly in their hearts. They were bitter. Why did so many powerful newcomers appear at this time? They knew it wasn't that they weren't strong enough. It was just that there were too many assassins this year. They used to occupy the top 10 spots, but now, apart from Sylph, Ka and Jaffer, there was only one assassin left in the top 10. Entered the top 10. After this tournament, the Spalier world won't be peaceful anymore. Because the Spalier World Academy is a gathering of the geniuses from all over the Spalier world. Their ranking is equivalent to their status in this world. Look at the top 10 in the past. They were born in the 3 great clans of the 3 empires. Being in the top 10 is a testament to their strength. This also proved that their clan was at the pinnacle of the continent. At the same time, it also reflected their clan status compared to other clans. How is it today? They lost this position, and it's the same as covering their clans with a thick layer of black ash. If one really wanted to be particular about it, it could be big or small. Therefore, the narrow-minded among them had already begun to hate Wu Yan and the others, while those who understood the reason from the beginning to the end gritted their teeth and vowed to take back the glory of the past. Of course, whether or not it could be realized was another matter altogether. On the other hand, those who didn't have powerful clans, or those whose clans weren't that influential, didn't have so many worries. Right now they were already thinking about where they would be placed in the next ranking. Sylph, Kaya, Jaffer, and Feifei didn't know about those who made it to the top 10. Wu Yan, on the other hand, was sleeping soundly as if this matter had nothing to do with him. However, Wu Yan was different. He couldn't fall asleep that night. In the villa district, on the rooftop of one of the villas, there was a figure sitting there as he looked up at the sky. His wine-red eyes were filled with a strange light. At this moment, his face, which was not considered handsome, became very attractive. The figure bathed in the night was like an emissary of the night. Even in this desolate place, he appeared so harmonious. He had completely integrated himself into the environment. It was as if he was born to stay in the night. This is to be expected. Night is the territory of vampires, the world of vampires, the time when vampires are active. Wu Yan is the true ancestor of vampires. Calling him an emissary of the night is belittling him. Even though night is the time when vampires are active, Wu Yan is still a human before he exchanged for the true ancestor bloodline. Being active during the day is a habit that's carved into his bones. That's why Wu Yan usually sleeps at night. However, in the end, Wu Yan is still a true ancestor of vampires. Sometimes during the night, he can't fall asleep and can only find something to do to pass the time. Usually during this time, Wu Yan would look for Mikoto, Chuju, Ikaros, and the other girls to play some papa games. However, perhaps due to the liveliness of the morning tournament, Mikoto and Chuju went to bed early. Ikaros was also dragged to bed by them. Helpless, Wu Yan can only go up to the rooftop to admire the moon and the sky. Miraculously, as the night scene entered Wu Yan's eyes, Wu Yan's heart fell into an unprecedented calmness. His mind gradually lost focus. This scene lasted for who knows how long until a light footstep entered Wu Yan's ears. Wu Yan came back to his senses. He turned around and couldn't help but smile. Flandre-chan, why aren't you sleeping yet? It's not good for a child to not sleep at night. Flandre-chan is wearing a cute red and white striped pajamas. Her light yellow hair is swaying gently in the wind. On her head is a beret that never changes. With the cute pajamas, it's like a nightcap, making Flandre-chan even more adorable. Flandre-chan is maintaining her tiptoeing posture in front of Wu Yan. It seems like she's planning to surprise Wu Yan and surprise him. Her little face is full of resentment at being discovered. Wu Yan can't help but find it funny. Even though it's the middle of the night, Wu Yan's comment about children not sleeping at night was just a joke. Flandre-chan is also a vampire. She's been influenced by him to sleep at night and move around during the day. However, vampires are still vampires. Just like Wu Yan, there's still a chance that they won't be able to sleep at night. Big bro found out. Flandre-chan stuck out her tongue and scratched her head in embarrassment. She then jumped up and sat in Wu Yan's arms. She rubbed her head against his chest. Her red eyes are full of attachment. Living in the academy for nearly a month was the happiest period of Flandre-chan's life. She had brothers and sisters who loved her and loved her. She also had Liren who played with her all over the place. Unlike the days when she could only hug her pillow in the basement, Flandre-chan is undoubtedly the happiest she's ever been. All of this is given to her by the big bro who brought her to his side. He's also the one who loves her the most. In Flandre-chan's little heart, Wu Yan's position is irreplaceable, not even her most beloved and hated sister. Wu Yan can more or less guess Flandre-chan's thoughts. That's why Wu Yan is ashamed. After all, summoning Flandre-chan was an accident, he didn't choose to do so. Flandre-chan is so attached to him because of this, Wu Yan naturally feels that it's not worth it. However, Wu Yan has explained this to Flandre-chan more than once, but Flandre-chan's feelings for him didn't change. She's still attached to him. This made Wu Yan speechless. All he can do is to give Flandre-chan all his love and care. This way he can show her that he wants to be good to her. But at this time, Wu Yan realized that he hasn't spent time with Flandre-chan since coming to the academy. Even though he personally fed her 3 meals a day, Wu Yan still feels that his love and care for Flandre-chan isn't enough. Patting Flandre-chan's head tenderly, Wu Yan looked up at the sky and whispered, "Flandre-chan, are you homesick?" Flandre-chan didn't hesitate to shake her head, but after a pause she nodded. Flandre-chan doesn't miss home, but Flandre-chan misses sister. Wu Yan smiled and didn't say anything else. He looked at the moon in the sky in silence. Maybe it's time for him to accompany Flandre-chan, Chuju, Mikoto, and the others. Chapter 377. On the second day, the Spalier World Academy wasn't as lively as it was 2 days ago. The higher-ups seemed to have predicted that the students wouldn't be able to sleep at night, so they arranged the third round of the tournament to be held 3 days later so that the top 10 participants would have some time to rest. Therefore, the students who had been so excited last night all wanted to fall asleep at this time. Unfortunately, the heavens played a joke on them. Today, for some reason, the sun went crazy early in the morning. It's trying its best to release all the heat in its body, as if it's afraid that it won't be able to use its heat and light. Today's temperature was raised to an extremely high level. The entire Spalier World Academy felt like it's been placed in a steamer. The merciless sun caused the students who wanted to sleep to jump out of their beds as if their butts were on fire. They couldn't sleep at all. Some of them even had distorted vision when they looked at the air. There wasn't even a trace of wind outside. Even if there was, it would be a hot wind which would only make people feel more uncomfortable. Under the fierce sunlight, ordinary people would feel dizzy after staying here for 10 minutes or so. Helpless. They could only either activate their do chi or use their demonic energy to expel this heat. After which, they were able to peacefully enter the land of dreams. However, after this torment, a feeling of exhaustion swarmed in. It was likely that by the time they woke up, they don't even know when they'll wake up. It's different from the other places in the Spalier World Academy. The villa area is unusually cool. As a special privilege given to the special students by the Spalier World Academy, the villa area has to be maintained in a good environment. Other things aside, warm in winter and cool in summer. That's a must. However, Chuju, Mikoto, Ikaros, and the others still left their beds early. It's not that they couldn't sleep because of the heat, it's just that after such a good night's sleep last night, they didn't want to stay in bed. One by one they sat at the table in the living room and ate their breakfast. Not sure if it's because they exhausted all their enthusiasm during the tournament or because the tournament was delayed for 3 days, but when Mikoto came to the living room she looked like she was half dead. She didn't have the same excitement she had 2 days ago. Chuju couldn't help but sigh. Even Chuju was affected. She didn't have the mood to eat anymore. She nibbled on breadcrumbs with a gloomy expression. She rolled her eyes at Mikoto, blaming her for making her look like this. Mikoto couldn't help but laugh dryly. The only one who was still energetic was Ikaros. However, from Ikaros' calm face, it's hard to tell what's going on. At some point, footsteps came from the staircase. The 3 girls in the living room were startled. Straightening their backs, Chuju, Mikoto, and Ikaros continued to eat their breakfast as if nothing happened. However, the 3 pairs of eyes that were looking at the staircase betrayed their inner thoughts. Not long after, Wu Yan's figure appeared in their line of sight. He was holding a yawning Flandre-chan in his arms. This proves the question of who was Wu Yan's partner last night. Last night, both vampires had insomnia, but they still went back to their room to sleep. Flandre-chan, on the other hand, didn't want to leave. After all, ever since she came to Spalier World Academy, she was forced to sleep in her own room or with Chuju and the others. She didn't have the chance to sleep with Wu Yan. How could Flandre-chan, who's attached to Wu Yan, endure this? Fortunately, the insomnia Flandre-chan found Wu Yan last night. Naturally, she didn't want to leave Wu Yan's side no matter what. Wu Yen could only hug this comfortable yet clingy pillow and go back to his room to sleep. Of course, a certain evil person still has a little bit of conscience in his heart. Looking at Flandre-chan's petite frame, he couldn't bring himself to push her down. Therefore last night a certain someone was serious for once. The three girls flinched when they saw this scene. However, they didn't think much of it. In their opinion, Flandre-chan is just a kid. Sleeping with Wu Yen is nothing out of the ordinary. Master. Ikaros called out softly. She wanted to go to Wu Yan's side, but then she realized she was still holding the bottle of black tea for Mikoto and Chuju. For a moment she was conflicted. Fortunately, Wu Yan himself came to Ikaros' side, so she didn't have to be conflicted anymore. However, the bottle of black tea for Chuju and Mikoto was switched to Wu Yan's cup. Chuju and Mikoto were speechless. Why do you look so listless? If you're tired, you should sleep a little longer. Wu Yan took a seat beside Ikaros and sat in front of Chuju and Mikoto. He skillfully picked up a serving of breakfast and started feeding Flandre-chan. He then looked at the two girls with a confused expression. Wu Yan didn't leave the villa, but he could feel the situation of the Spalier World Academy students last night. When he saw the hot weather this morning, Wu Yan could more or less guess how miserable they were. Chuju and Mikoto were also in the same state. Wu Yan couldn't help but feel puzzled. The two girls were sleeping so soundly last night and he didn't do anything to them. Why are they still in this state? Did they wake up from the heat? But it's still cool in the villa area. When Mikoto heard Wu Yan's words, she turned her head away. Chuju made a seductive gesture at Wu Yan and pouted her lips at Mikoto. Wu Yan raised an eyebrow. She looked at Mikoto, and after a long silence, she finally managed to squeeze out a sentence. Will you die if you don't think about fighting for a day? Mikoto immediately stood up, her pretty face flushed red. Trying to be brave, she explained. How can that be called a fight? I'm just keeping my promise with Sylph. We're going to settle this once and for all. Wu Yin softly ridiculed her. So it's important for you to determine the winner. No wonder you were captured by Seduction Hand in the forbidden magic domain. What did you say? Nothing. After feeding Flandre-chan the last bit of food, Wu Yin looked at Mikoto, Hinajiku, and Ikaros. He mused for a bit before he said, Hey Mikoto, Chuju, why don't we go to the beach? The two girls stopped what they were doing, their eyes lit up when they heard the word beach. Wu Yen smiled, but Chuju looked at Wu Yen in confusion. Why do you want to go to the beach all of a sudden? Well, it's because the weather's hot. Wu Yen waved his hand. Of course, he wouldn't tell them that it's because he realized he hasn't spent time with them for a long time, so he wanted to go out with them. As for why he wants to go to the beach, you'll have to ask a certain someone's evil heart. The two girls looked at each other. There was still a bit of doubt in their eyes, but they let it go. No matter what, going to the beach is a very attractive thing for someone as active as them. Wu Yen took in their expressions and smiled knowingly. Then it's decided. Chuju and Mikoto nodded. The listless look on their faces disappeared without a trace. Chuju looked at Wu Yen and asked, Do you know where the sea is in this world? Who told you I want to go to the beach in this world? Not in this world? Wu Yen lifted his head and said something that made Hinajiku flabbergasted. Let's go back to Whirlwind Butler. Chapter 378. Spalier World Academy occupies a vast area. It's even larger than Academy City. That's to be expected. After all, there are more than 10 million people in Spalier World Academy. How can it accommodate so many people if it doesn't occupy a large area? The population of Academy City is only about 2.3 million. If it weren't for the dazzling array of experimental measures and laboratories, I'm afraid there would be a lot of empty land in Academy City. The same goes for Silveria World Institute. Even though it has a much larger population than Academy City, it doesn't require a lot of space. The Arena Tower, the Merchant District, and the Free Trade District may take up a lot of space, but it's nothing compared to Silveria World Institute. As the Academy's land was mainly used to provide accommodation for the students, even though the population was over 10 million, there was still a lot of empty space. Naturally, these places would not be left unused. The Academy's higher-ups would selectively provide some empty space to students who needed it. For example, those from the Academy's forces. Forming a faction isn't something that can be done casually. It's still a faction. What's the point of forming a faction without cohesiveness? That's why when a faction is formed, it's important to provide a place for its members to gather. In other words, the problem of the faction's headquarters. If the Academy's higher-ups didn't provide the land, it would be impossible to form a faction. It's not that easy to form a faction in Spalier World Academy. Regardless of the size of the factions within the academy, there would always be a headquarters. It was just a matter of the size of the headquarters. At this moment, in front of a tall building that occupied a relatively large area, a figure flew over from afar and stopped there. This figure is none other than Wu Yan, who decided to bring his girls to the beach for some fun. Since he wants to bring his sisters to the beach. The Shokuho Misaki, Astria, Kinohada Sai, Frenda, and Takitsubu Riku can't be left behind. That's why after asking around, Wu Yan obtained the location of Starlight Queen's headquarters. He arrived at this place, looking for the 5 girls who ran away from home. Looking at the tall building in front of him, Wu Yan walked towards it. He can only hope that Shokuho Misaki and the others are in there. After all, he already searched the villa area and the 5 girls were nowhere to be found. If he can't even find them in the headquarters, it'll be difficult to find them in the entire academy. However, Wu Yan didn't expect that finding Shokuho Misaki in Starlight Queen's headquarters would be as difficult as finding her in the entire academy. This is Starlight Queen's headquarters. Outsiders, please do not come too close. When Wu Yan approached the entrance of Starlight Queen's headquarters, a group of female students who were patrolling behind the front door of the headquarters blocked Wu Yan's way. The leader of the group, a female student with decent looks, looked at Wu Yan with a serious expression. She said those words in a practiced manner. It can be seen that this is not the first time she has faced this kind of situation. Wu Yan stopped and he looked at the leader of the group. Then he looked at the other members of the group and he felt relieved. This is the headquarters of a faction. It's impossible for there to be no management. If anyone could enter the headquarters, it wouldn't be called a headquarters. Judging from Shokuho Misaki's abilities, she must be doing a good job in managing the faction. Wu Yan smiled at them and said, "Hello seniors, I'm here to look for your leader. May I ask if she's here?" Wu Yan frowned as he looked at the female students. He's not sure if he's imagining things, but he felt like the way the female students looked at him changed after he revealed his intentions. They're starting to get impatient. The female student leading the group looked at Wu Yan and said expressionlessly, "Shokuho Mozaki-sama is busy and can't receive guests. Please leave for now." Busy? Wu Yan glanced at the female students. Seeing how impatient they are, Wu Yan calmed down. He even found it funny. Based on his understanding of Shokuho Misaki, even though she's a little obsessed with territory, he doesn't believe that she would personally manage a faction's affairs. Shokuho Misaki likes the feeling of being supported by others, but she's also a lazy person. If there's anything she needs to do, she'll just leave it to her subordinates to deal with it. She'll listen to the results and make her own decisions. That's why this whole busy thing is probably nonsense. Wu Yan narrowed his eyes and he shook his head. He can guess why these female students are looking for an excuse to chase him away. With Shokuho Misaki's popularity in Silveria World Institute, this patrol squad must have been annoyed by Shokuho Misaki's fans. They must have thought that Wu Yan is a fan who came to look for his idol. Wu Yan went straight to the point. "I'm a good friend of Shokuho Misaki-sama. Go in and tell her she'll come out to see me." Hearing this, the female students were stunned. Then the impatience on their faces increased. The female student in the lead even waved her hand at him like she was shooing away flies. "Understood. We'll report to her after she's done with her affairs. You can go back now." Wu Yan's expression darkened. These girls didn't even take his words to heart. Judging by the looks of it, if he really leaves they would forget about what he said. Report or whatever, that's out of the question. In fact, Wu Yan didn't know whether to laugh or cry. This is probably the downside of being popular. He said that they're good friends. It's likely that some of the fans will use it to their advantage. That's why Wu Yan didn't blame them. But he can't just leave like that. Does he have to force his way in? Lifting his head to look at the girls, he steeled his resolve to force his way in. Otherwise these girls wouldn't let him in. Wu Yan smiled at them and he disappeared from the spot. When he reappeared, he was already at the entrance of Starlight Queen's headquarters. The patrolling female students were shocked and furious. They wanted to capture Wu Yan, but the female student leader looked at Wu Yan's figure and thought of something. She shouted at Wu Yan, "Wait, you can't force your way in. Let me bring you in." Wu Yan turned his head in astonishment and looked at the female student. "You want to bring me in? Did I hear wrong? Didn't you just stop me from going in?" The female student blushed and said awkwardly, "Sorry, I didn't remember your identity, so..." "My identity?" Wu Yan was even more confused after hearing the female student's words. He crossed his arms and stared at the female student with his red eyes. What identity do I have to make you change your mind and bring me in? The female student chuckled. Wu Yin-sama, one of the top 10 in the academy tournament. Is that enough? The female students behind her covered their mouths in shock. Wu Yin raised an eyebrow and shook his head helplessly. He thought that the female student would say something like Shokuhasama's partner, or Shokuhasama's other half. Chapter 379. On the way to Shokuho Misaki's headquarters, Wu Yin looked at the female students in front of him who didn't even bother to talk to him. He looked around and was speechless. Even though he knew Shokuho Misaki created a Starlight Queen in the academy, Wu Yin didn't know what kind of faction Starlight Queen was. But now Wu Yin knew. Simply put, it's a faction made up entirely of female students. Along the way, Wu Yin saw no less than a few hundred members of Starlight Queen. Every single one of them is a female student and they are pretty good looking. Their talents and strength are top-notch as well. Wu Yin even saw a few special students. Plus, when the female students saw him walking into the headquarters, they pointed at him and whispered to each other like they were looking at a gorilla. Wu Yin was certain that there were no males in Starlight Queen's headquarters. Could it be that Shokuho Misaki has gotten used to being served by the other girls in Tokuwadai, so she doesn't want any men to appear in her territory? Or is it because she looked down on men and thought that the girls in her faction were better than the boys? Perhaps only Shokuho Misaki herself knows the answer to this question. Listening to the whispers of the female students, Wu Yin felt helpless. It's just that there are no males in the headquarters. It's not like there aren't any males in the academy. Is there a need to be so exaggerated? Wu Yin didn't know that during the time Shokuho Misaki established Starlight Queen, the leaders of the major factions came to visit her. However, if there were any males among them, Shokuho Misaki wouldn't meet them. She would only meet the females who came to visit her. In other words, a male walked into her headquarters. This is the first time. The reason why the female patrol leader dared to bring Wu Yin in is because of this. On the day the first round of the tournament ended, this female student. She saw Shokuho Misaki hugging Wu Yan's arm with her own eyes. She looked really close to him. That day, the female student was scared out of her wits. Even though she had only joined Starlight Queen for less than a month, she knew Shokuho Misaki quite well. At least, Shokuho Misaki didn't care about any of the outstanding male students in the academy. One could only imagine how shocked the female student was when she saw the scene that day. However, other than her, no one else knew about it because even if she told others about it, no one would believe her. Otherwise, it would definitely cause a storm in Starlight Queen. Due to Shokuho Misaki's skill in controlling her subordinates, the members of Starlight Queen idolized her as much as the Oniai-sama of Tokuwadai. Wu Yin had a taste of the Oniai-sama's dark side before. If news of this spread within Starlight Queen, the result would be the same. The female student leading the way was one of the more sensible members. If it was anyone else who saw this scene, forget about leading Wu Yin, they might even be dismembered. Following the female student's lead, a large office appeared in front of Wu Yin. The female student knocked on the door. Not long after, a familiar sweet voice came from behind the door. Come in. The female student pushed open the door to reveal the situation inside to Wu Yin. The corner of Wu Yan's mouth twitched when he saw the situation inside. He raised an eyebrow and his expression turned awkward. It's a spacious room similar to any other office. There is a long desk in the middle of the room and two large bookshelves on both sides. The desk and bookshelves are filled with all sorts of papers. It's a typical office layout. However, in such a place, there was a round dining table covered with a gorgeous tablecloth, filled with all kinds of desserts and black tea. The person who was supposed to be working hard behind his desk was sitting here with the four girls, eating desserts and drinking black tea. It was a different story. Shokuho Misaki didn't notice Wu Yan's presence. She thought he was one of her subordinates, so she continued eating her cake. Kinuhata Sayai and Frenda, on the other hand, were sipping their black tea with disinterest. It looks like they aren't as obsessed with desserts as Shokuho Misaki. Takitsubu Riku looked exhausted. She slumped on the table as if she fell asleep. Astria, on the other hand, turned into a glutton. She gobbled down everything on the table as if she hasn't eaten for several lifetimes. Wu Yin originally thought that he would be able to see a dignified leader scolding his underlings. When he arrived, he was met with a scene like this. One can imagine how he felt. He couldn't keep his cool. Wu Yin rolled his eyes when he saw the awkward expression on the girl's face. His face twitched as he said, "You girls sure know how to enjoy life." At the same time, those who were eating the dessert stopped. those who were drinking the black tea stopped, those who were sleeping stopped, and those who were eating crazily stopped. They turned their heads abruptly to look at the source of the sound, and the 5 women were instantly stunned. "Master!" Astria shrieked and she started coughing like crazy. It's obvious that she choked on the food that she didn't manage to swallow. Wu Yen felt bad for her when he saw her like this. "Why are you here?" Shokuho Misaki, Kinohada Sai, and Frenda exclaimed in surprise. Takitsubu Riku, on the other hand, was pleasantly surprised. Wu Yen finally felt a bit better. "You girls didn't want me to come?" Wu Yen glanced at them and turned away. "Then I'll be leaving." "Wait." The 5 girls subconsciously called him out. Wu Yen found it funny, but he also felt proud of himself. Looks like these 5 girls still have their hearts tied to him after all. Shokuho Misaki quickly put down her desserts and walked to Wu Yan's side. She hugged his arm and pouted. "It's rare for you to come here. Are you going to leave just like that?" "What else can I do?" Wu Yen glared at Shokuho Misaki. "You girls look like you're enjoying yourselves. It's my fault for disturbing you." The 5 girls laughed awkwardly. Shokuho Misaki was no exception. After all, the scene just now was too embarrassing for her. Wu Yen shrugged. He glanced at Shokuho Misaki and he hugged her by the waist. Shokuho Misaki jumped in surprise. What Wu Yen said next shocked her even more. It shocked her even more. Wu Yen rubbed Shokuho Misaki's waist under the shocked gaze of the female student who led the way. He lamented. "Looks like you've gotten fatter." "Fat?" Shokuho Misaki screamed. She lifted her head from Wu Yan's embrace and forced a smile. No way. I don't feel that fat, duh." Wu Yan didn't hold back as he taunted. "Who knows your body better than me? Do you think I can't tell if you've gained weight or not?" Shokuho Misaki gulped and she started touching her body in a panic. Wu Yan's words are highly believable. She might not be able to detect the changes in her body, but it wouldn't be easy to hide it from Wu Yan. Plus, she's the type that tends to gain weight easily. She's been eating desserts like crazy these days, so it's only natural that she'd gain weight. Shokuho Misaki looked like she was about to cry. She hugged Wu Yan tightly and sobbed. "Yen, you can't leave me in the lurch. I don't want to become a fat woman." Wu Yan's mouth twitched. "What can I do to save you?" Shokuho Misaki patted Wu Yan's chest and said something that almost made Wu Yan spit out his rice. "Look around the system and see if there's anything that can help you lose weight instantly." Chapter 380. White Emperor College is a famous school for nobles in the world of Whirlwind Butler. It's similar to Tokuwadai Middle School in the Index of Forbidden Books world. The only difference is, there are no superpowers in this world. White Emperor College consists of elementary school, middle school, and high school. Students who study here must have a strong family background and have real talent. That's because the entrance exam for White Emperor College is 65 points and above. Here, 65 points is enough for a person to get into a first-rate university. 72 points is enough for them to get into Tokyo University. One could only imagine how difficult it was to study here. Therefore, the White Emperor Academy had always been a super aristocratic academy that everyone dreamed of entering. The White King Academy was very spacious. The students who were active inside would directly use the trams to travel, but usually no one would use them. But today, this tram that had not been activated for a long time flashed with a white light. When the white light disappeared, a man and 9 women appeared in the tram. The man was holding an extremely cute little girl with a pair of wine-red eyes. The women were all swallows. Some were big, some were small, but without exception they were all devastatingly beautiful. The group of 10 that suddenly appeared are Wu Yen, Chuju, Mikoto, Ikaros, Flandra-chan, Shokuho Misaki, Astria, Kinohada Sai, Frenda, and Takitsubu Riku. Wu Yen already had a plan when he decided to bring the girls to the beach to relax. It's time to go back to the Whirlwind Butler. First of all, the world of the Whirlwind Butler is much safer than the world of the Forbidden Tome. There aren't as many conflicts and I can have a good time. Second of all, Hinajiku, who has been away from home for a long time, can also go back home. For the sake of sightseeing, the world of the Whirlwind Butler was naturally the best choice. Wu Yen can only go to the world he wants. Only the Whirlwind Butler, Forbidden Book of Magic Catalog, and Heavenly Item were available. The other worlds required points to activate. Compared to the other 2 worlds, Whirlwind Butler is used for fun. It's the best world for him. If he goes to the Index of Forbidden Books, who knows if Alistair will set him up for it. The same goes for Heavenly Object. That scumbag Sky Lord had his eyes on Ikaros all the time. If he goes there, he's bound to run into a lot of trouble. Wu Yen really wanted to take care of Space Master, but he's only here to keep the girls company. So, he decided to take care of Space Master when he has the time. Looking around, when they found themselves in a tram, the girls showed a puzzled look, they don't know where they are. Hinagiku, on the other hand, smiled happily. She reached out and touched the door of the tram, her eyes full of nostalgia. After all, this was Hinagiku's first time away from home. It's only natural that she would miss this place after being away from home for so long. Although in the end, time stopped in Butler Whirlwind's world and Hinagiku left at the same moment, everyone understood why Chuju is acting like this. They didn't disturb Chuju and waited for her. Even Flandre-chan is the same. Everyone here is like Chuju, they left their home so they can more or less feel the same way. Even Shokuho Misaki and the others who don't have a good impression of Academy City, it didn't take long for Chuju to come back to her senses. She smiled apologetically at everyone. I'm sorry for the wait. Let's go, I'll lead the way. While saying this, Hinagiku's face was full of metal. She raised her head and puffed out her chest, adding a bit of luster to her beautiful face. It can be seen that she was very happy to be able to return here. Opening the door of the tram, Wu Yen and Hinagiku walked in front to lead the way for the girls. Wu Yen lived in Hakuo Academy for a period of time, so he naturally knows the way around. Hinagiku, being a native of Hakuo Academy, is even more so. She led the group of beautiful girls around her as they strolled around the academy. Along the way, they saw the beautiful environment of the White Emperor College. Even Mikoto and Shokuho Misaki, who came from Tokuwadai, were impressed. In terms of environment, the White Emperor College doesn't lose to Tokuwadai High School at all. With Wu Yen and Chuju leading the way, the girls walked around the White Emperor College. During the walk, they attracted a lot of attention from the White Emperor College's students. It's not just because of the girls' beauty, it's also because the 10 of them aren't wearing uniforms. Of course, there are students who don't wear uniforms in the White Emperor College. Yiching is one of them. Plus, Chuju is the president of the White Emperor College's student council, so they didn't encounter any problems. When it comes to touring Baihuang Academy, the student council's bell tower is a must. With Hinagiku around, the group was able to reach the student council's office. Shokuho Misaki's eyes lit up as she exclaimed that such a place was worthy of her status as a queen. Of course, she was ignored by the rest of the group. Perhaps it was because it was still class time, so the group of clowns from the student council weren't here. This made Hinagiku a little disappointed, but it was quickly replaced by the excitement of returning home. Leading the group, she walked towards the gate of Baihuang Academy. At the school gate, Hinagiku was smiling happily, because she saw a figure that was unexpected yet expected at the same time. Sister. That's right, it's Chuju's biological sister, Gue Shuelu. Chuju. Gue Shuelu looked at Chuju in surprise. She was confused when she saw her sister's casual clothes. When Wu Yen left, time stopped in this world. Gue Shuelu didn't know that her sister had been gone for a long time. Chuju always wore her uniform when she was in the White Emperor College. As the student council's president, she has to set an example. She has never walked around the White Emperor College in casual clothes. Unlike Gue Shuelu, who is surprised, Hinagiku's eyes are a bit red. She followed Wu Yen around the other world and stayed in the Forbidden Tome catalog world. For Hinagiku, it's been a long time since she saw her family, so it's natural for her to feel a bit emotional. But just as Hinagiku was about to jump into her sister's arms, Gue Shuelu's words froze her face. All the joy in her heart instantly evaporated into thin air. Gue Shuelu didn't know what to think. His face became serious, and he put on a karate stance, facing Hinagiku, and cautiously said, "Hinagiku, are you thinking of skipping class? I won't allow it." Hinagiku's face stiffened and she quickly shook her head. Mikoto and the others nodded their heads, thinking that Gue Shuelu is a good sister. She wouldn't condone her sister's bad habits. Only Wu Yen seemed to have thought of something and his eyebrows jumped. And as expected, Gue Shuelu's next sentence made the women's faces completely embarrassed. "It's my turn to guard the door today. If you skip class, my salary will be deducted. If my salary is deducted because of you, even if it's my sister, I'll make you pay." Sure enough. Wu Yen couldn't bear to watch any longer, so he covered his head with his hands. The girls behind him felt their legs give way and they all fell to the ground. "Sister. What nonsense are you talking about?" Hinagiku's face was red. Looking at the embarrassed Gue Shuelu, she really wanted to give her a kick. At this time, Gue Shuelu noticed Wu Yen. He paused for a second before looking at the beautiful girls behind him. He didn't know why, but his expression turned into one of complete shock. Pointing at Chuju, Gue Shuelu said angrily, Chuju, I didn't expect you to become a member of someone else's crystal palace. I. Sister Chuju's scream echoed throughout the White Emperor College. At the same time there was a girl's scream. Chapter 381. Chuju took a deep breath as she stared at the door. Her hands started trembling. She wanted to push the door open, but a sense of homesickness rose in her heart. She couldn't even lift her hands. She's been standing at the door for about 15 minutes now. Wu Yan and the others stood behind Chuju. They stared at her without saying a word. It's been less than half a year since Hinajuku left the world of Butler Whirlwind. To the people of this world, it's only a blink of an eye. But Hinajuku couldn't help but act this way. After all, Hinajuku is only 16 years old. Strictly speaking, she's still a child. There are people who are younger than Chuju. Mikoto, Kinohara Sai, and Frenda are younger than Chuju. However, the three of them grew up in Academy City. In Academy City, even young children don't have parents by their side. They were sent to Academy City from a young age to receive the development of their abilities. Independence is a necessary skill. That's why even Mikoto didn't fully understand Hinajuku's feelings, let alone Kinohara Sai and Frenda. Takitsubu Riku was the same. Flandre-chan wasn't too mature, so she didn't really understand. As for Ikaros and Astria, they didn't know what was going on. To them, Wu Yan is their only family. Shokuho Misaki, on the other hand, seems to understand Chuju's feelings. However, she doesn't feel the same way. She has seen the emotions of many people in Academy City. Before. After a long while, Hinajuku finally adjusted her condition. She smiled apologetically at everyone. Then she pushed open the door to her house. I'm back. Chuju used to shout this sentence several times a day. She would shout it at this time. Her voice trembled a little. However, the next moment, a beautiful woman's voice came from the living room. Hinajuku, who was about to step into the house, stopped in midair. Era, Hinajuku, you're back so soon? Chuju's mother is sitting on the sofa in the living room. The TV in front of her is playing a tear-jerking soap opera. Chuju's mother is crying her eyes out. She had a handkerchief in her hand and she kept wiping her face. The handkerchief was almost soaked. Chuju saw this scene and it made Chuju laugh. Her unstable emotions calmed down. Chuju walked up to her mother and complained. Mom, your tear line is so easy to break, don't watch such tear-jerking soap operas. However, Mother Hinajuku did not agree and retorted. It's not that my tear line is easy to break, it's just that the plot is too. Before she could finish, Chuju's mother seemed to recall something sad. Tears flowed down her face. Chuju couldn't help but feel embarrassed. Wu Yan and the others looked at each other and smiled bitterly. Flandre-chan looked at Chuju's mother and tugged at Wu Yan's clothes. Big brother, is that Chuju Jeje's mother? What a strange person, even stranger than my sister. Wu Yan laughed dryly. He silently mourned for Remilia. If Remilia knew that she had such an image in her sister's heart, she would probably smash her dignity to the ground. Hinajuku's mother turned around when she heard Flandre-chan's tender voice. When she saw Flandre-chan in Wu Yan's arms, she flinched for a moment before joy filled her. She quickly walked over to Flandre-chan and she spoke with a loving tone. What a cute little girl. What's your name? Flandre-chan looked innocently at Chuju's mother with her wine-red eyes. Flandre-chan's name is Flandre-chan. Oh, you're called Flandre-chan. Hee, how are you? Hinajuku's mom held Flandre-chan's hand and gently waved it twice, her face full of smiles. One has to say, she's a mature woman indeed. She's really good at treating children. Her behavior won Flandre-chan's favor immediately. Yen, is this little girl your little sister? Hinajuku's mom lifted her head to look at Wu Yen, but she quickly froze and exclaimed in surprise. Little Yen, how did your eyes become like that? It's nothing, don't mind this kind of thing. Wu Yen mumbled. Although Hinajuku's mom still didn't understand, she didn't think too much about it. The children naturally have their own thoughts. Hinajuku's mom still has a lot of trust in Wu Yen, who took care of her and her mother. If it wasn't for Wu Yan's insistence on being a housekeeper, Chuju's mother would have taken him in as a foster son. When she mentioned this to Wu Yan almost peed his pants. Nonsense, if he became Chuju's mother's son, wouldn't Chuju be his little sister? To Wu Yan, who wanted to woo the president, this was no less than a bolt from the blue. Naturally, he rejected it as much as he could. At this time, facing Chuju's mother again, Wu Yan felt a little guilty. He couldn't help but look away, not daring to look directly at Chuju's mother's eyes. This made Chuju's mother puzzled again. However, when Hinajiku's mother saw that Hinajiku was behaving the same way beside her, she raised her eyebrows and understood everything. It was obvious that Hinajiku was having an affair and was too embarrassed to face her. With a swish, Chuju's mother looked at Wu Yan and said with a smile, "Allah, it seems like you're hiding something from your mother." With that, Chuju's mother reached out and stopped Wu Yan and Chuju from blurting out perfunctorily. "Let me guess, what did you do?" Glancing at Wu Yan and then at Chuju, Chuju's mother smiled slyly. "Could it be that our Chuju is finally bold enough to confess to Yanjun today?" "Mom, what are you talking about?" Hinajiku's face turned red at a speed visible to the naked eye. She shouted in embarrassment and irritation. Her yellow-green eyes were filled with indignation. She's already done it with Wu Yan and it's not like she hasn't been ridiculed like this before. However, if it's her own mother, it's a different story. Also, Hinajiku's skin is thin to begin with. What's more, I'm the girl. Shouldn't I guess that the guy confesses to me first? She was also a victim. She was forced to do it. Thinking of this, Chuju's eyes became more indignant. She glared at Wu Yan, making Wu Yan smile awkwardly. Chuju's mother also chuckled. "Look at you. Even if it's not a confession, it's not far from it." Chuju's mother looked back and forth between Wu Yan and Chuju with great interest and clapped her hands. "That's not bad. Yanjun's cooking is so good. If you marry my Chuju, I'll be able to eat it often in the future." "Marry, marry, marry, marry?" Chuju's face turned red as if the word marry was a great stimulus to her. Her head began to boil. Before this, Chuju had never thought about marriage. Hinajiku's mother was just joking, but seeing her daughter like this, how could she not know what her daughter was thinking in her heart? This time she seriously thought about it. Chuju seems a little young to get married. But it doesn't matter. It won't be too late in a year or two. Anyway, when I married her father, I wasn't that old. Suddenly, Chuju's mother paused. She glanced behind Wu Yan at the group of girls who had been looking at each other. Then she smiled at Wu Yan. "Of course, the premise is that you can't be a playboy." Other than laughing, what else could he do? Chapter 382. The sun is golden, the beach is golden, the sky is blue, the water is blue, the water is blue, the water is blue. There is no doubt that this is the ocean. Wu Yan and Co. are standing in front of a wooden mansion with a red roof and white walls. They are looking at the beach and the ocean in front of them. The warmest and most comfortable smiles on their faces are a reflection of how they are feeling right now. The ocean. The ocean. Flandre-chan's eyes lit up. She threw her little handbag on the ground and cheered. Her little face was full of excitement. Her sweet and innocent voice spread among the crowd, causing the smiles on everyone's face to grow even wider. "Oni-san. It's the ocean. The ocean." Flandre-chan jumped into Wu Yan's arms and pointed outside. Her red eyes were filled with intoxication. Wu Yan smiled and pinched her cheeks. "What's wrong? Is this Flandre-chan's first time seeing the ocean?" Nodding her little head like she was pounding garlic, Flandre-chan once again turned to look at the blue water with a happy smile on her face. Flandre-chan has never seen the ocean before. "I see." Wu Yan rubbed Flandre-chan's head and he looked at the ocean in the distance. "This time we must play to our heart's content." "Aha." Shokuho Misaki stroked her hair, and the corner of her mouth rose. "The ocean. Compared to a swimming pool, it does give off a different feeling." Mikoto raised an eyebrow and looked at Shokuho Misaki. She suddenly asked, Have you never been to the sea before?" The smile on Shokuho Misaki's face froze. She covered her mouth with her hand and smiled, but it looked forced. "How could I not have been to the ocean?" "Oh," Mikoto dragged out the word, her teasing tone was obvious. Shokuho Misaki could no longer maintain her smile. She was angry and was about to retort when Takitsubu Riku pulled her back and smiled apologetically. If these two were to fight, it would be a disaster. There would be no end to it. Why are you all standing there?" Chuju poked her head out of the mansion and shouted at everyone. "Go put down your luggage and change your clothes." "Oh, time to change." Astria ran into the mansion first. Everyone shook their heads and smiled bitterly. They knew Astria came here just to taste the watermelon and ice cream. "All right, go change your clothes, I will go put down the luggage." Wu Yan turned around and walked towards Chuju. He handed Flandre-chan to her. "Chuju, I'll leave Flandre-chan in your care." Hinajiku nodded and she took Flandre-chan. She called out to the others before heading inside. Wu Yan spent a lot of gold coins on this trip to Silveria so that he could enjoy himself to the fullest. The villa has everything he needs, there's even a room full of swimsuits. It's an extravagant place. If it weren't for the fact that Silveria's gold coins are made of real gold, Wu Yin would have spent a lot of money by now. Of course it was all worth it. When everyone walked into the room, they were immediately stunned by the scene in front of them. What appeared in front of them was a dazzling array of swimsuits of various styles and sizes. There were so many types that this group of little girls who had never seen such a big scene before could not help but stare with their eyes wide open. These are all swimsuits? Mikoto's jaw dropped in an exaggerated manner. Even the biggest swimsuit store in Academy City isn't as big as this, right? Where did Yen find a mansion like this? Chuju shook her head with a bitter smile. The world of Hayate the Whirlwind is filled with rich people. She has seen the private swimming pool of Sanqian Nunnery and Yicheng. The swimsuits prepared there are even more extravagant than the ones here, so she wasn't surprised. There are a lot of different types of swimsuits here, some of them are good enough to cover the entire body. However, most of them are too revealing for the girls to see. Some of them only cover the important parts of the body. The girls looked at each other and started to get suspicious. Don't tell me Wu Yan arranged this on purpose? It has to be said that Wu Yan's image in the girls' minds isn't that good. Of course, Flandre-chan and Astria didn't think as much as the other girls. After cheering, they ran into the store to look for their favorite swimsuits. Shokuho Misaki smiled and walked in as well. Anyway, there were only 10 of them in this stall. 9 of them were women, and although the remaining one was a man, which part of his body hadn't he seen before? It doesn't matter what kind of swimsuit she wears. Plus, it's not like there aren't any decent swimsuits here. Why are you thinking so much? No matter how revealing it is, it's better than being naked, right? Frenda shrugged as she giggled at the girls. The girls looked at each other and they nodded helplessly. Even if they are shy, they have to admit that in front of Wu Yan, it doesn't matter what they wear. At this moment, Astria picked up a swimsuit and placed it on top of her body. She yelled as she compared the size of the swimsuit. Hey, how about this one? No. Chuju and Mikoto objected without hesitation. Their faces turned red from embarrassment. What a joke, the one Astria is holding isn't even a swimsuit, it's more like a piece of cloth made of red thread. The pieces of cloth are about the size of their thumbs. Can they even wear something like that? Is that so? Astria shook her head and put the swimsuit back down with a hint of regret. I thought it was pretty good. At this moment, the other girls also started to disperse and look for suitable swimsuits. Kinohata Sai, who was about to step forward, suddenly thought of something and turned to Takitsubu Riku and said, Takitsubu, super wait for a while before you change. Stay here and super watch, I don't want that super pervert to come in. That won't happen. Takitsubu Riku smiled sheepishly. However, her tone is indescribably weak. Obviously, even she feels that there's a high chance that Wu Yan will barge in. Once again, Wu Yan's image in the girls' hearts isn't that great. Mikoto, which one do you think is better? Hinagiku looked at the swimsuits that were similar to underwear, but she didn't even look at the cloth and lines. She said to Mikoto, looking like she couldn't make up her mind. I think this one is good. Mikoto looked around and picked up a swimsuit that was similar to the school swimsuit. There's a lot of places that can be covered. But as soon as she said that, Mikoto was stunned. Her brown eyes suddenly flashed with starlight as she stared at a swimsuit, unable to look away. Hinagiku suspiciously turned her head to look. She was stunned for a moment, then she smiled helplessly. That's because the swimsuit that Mikoto is looking at has a tight-fitting top and a pleated skirt. There are some white dots in the brown. How should I put it? It's pretty cute. Hinagiku looked at the tea-colored bra and said meaningfully, It suits you, Mikoto? Ah. Mikoto jumped like a startled deer and her face turned red. What are you talking about? I won't wear a kid's swimsuit. Yes, that's right. Seeing the smile on Hinagiku's face, Mikoto's voice became weaker and weaker. She lowered her head, blushed, and couldn't speak. Hinagiku couldn't help but laugh. Wear it if you like it. I think Yen will like it too. Who wants him to like it? Even though she said that, Mikoto's eyes were already looking at the swimsuit. Chuju felt helpless. She picked up the swimsuit and shoved it into Mikoto's arms before pushing her into the changing room. Wait. Chapter 383. Without a doubt, the amount of time a girl needs to put on makeup, change clothes, and tidy up her hair isn't something other activities can compare to. Even changing into a bathing suit that doesn't have much fabric took a full hour. Other than Wu Yen, the other 9 girls are standing in the middle of the bathing suit room, all of them have changed into bathing suits. If Wu Yan was here, he'd be dizzy just looking at them. Chuju is wearing a pink bathing suit. The top is tied with 2 straps at the back of her neck and the bottom is a very classic bikini style. Her pink hair and pink bathing suit together, it's like they were born to be together. Mikoto is wearing the bathing suit that Chuju forced on her. The color is brown with some white dots. It matches her hair color very well. The upper part is a tight-fitting suit with a pleated skirt. Even if it's a little underage, it's still very suitable for Mikoto. Standing next to Mikoto was Frenda. She had already taken off her black beret and her blonde hair was tied up. Frenda didn't lose her original cuteness, but she also looked a little weak. She was wearing a revealing red swimsuit that crossed her chest. She looked cute, weak and sexy all at once. To sum it up, she looked cute, weak and sexy all at once. To sum it up, Frenda, she's very cute. Compared to the 3 girls, Kinohata Sai's swimsuit was a bit more common. It was the school swimsuit that Mikoto picked up before. It covered her petite body tightly but the color was white. Coupled with Kinohata Sai's seductive snow-white thighs, it didn't lose any of her charm. Instead, it brought out the beauty of her long legs. Flandre-chan's bathing suit is a proper children's bathing suit. The color is her favorite, red and white. The design is similar to Mikoto's. Of course. With Flandre-chan's cute face, no matter what she wears, she'll attract a lot of attention, especially from some weird uncles. These 5 girls are the epitome of beauty, cuteness, and beauty. If they go out in public, they'll definitely dazzle a bunch of perverts. She was also very satisfied with her image. Before the other 4 girls came out of the dressing room, she had already changed her clothes. At this time, the 5 of them, aside from Flandre-chan, the smiles on the other 4 girls' faces disappeared the moment the 4 girls came out of the changing room. All that was left was unwillingness, jealousy, and unwillingness. Jealousy, and hatred. Shokuho Misaki walked in front of the girls, revealing her beige bikini under the envious gazes of the girls. Her lips curled into a sly smile, and her body swayed with every step she took. Her voluptuous breasts bounced up and down, making her look extremely seductive. Ikaros had a calm expression but her body didn't seem to want to be left out. The black and white striped bikini couldn't restrain her voluptuous breasts. Even though she wasn't as graceful as Shokuho Misaki, her charm didn't lose to her at all. In fact, she's a little more charming. Astria, on the other hand, was the one who pissed off Mikoto, Hinajiku, Frenda, and Kinohata Sai the most. After coming out of the changing room, Astria jumped up and down in her pure white bikini with a happy expression. However, her large breasts bounced up and down with each jump, causing the 4 girls to almost spit fire from their eyes. On the other hand, Takitsubu Riku followed behind Shokuho Misaki, Ikaros, and Astria with a sullen expression on her face. She felt like she didn't have the right to stand next to them. But reality proved that her voluptuous breasts under the contrast of the black bikini made it clear to everyone that she had a place in Shokuho Misaki, Ikaros, and Astria's group. Chuju, Mikoto, Kinohata Sai, and Frenda sized up Shokuho Misaki, Ikaros, Astria, and Takitsubu Riku as if they were trying to find a loophole. After a while, they looked at each other and lowered their heads in dejection. Without a doubt, in the war between the Pauper Party and the Jiru Party, the Pauper Party lost. Frenda carefully looked at her petite body, gritted her teeth and muttered angrily. What's the point of having a good body? Right now, having a good body doesn't mean you're the winner, having a cute face is the way to go. Chuju, Mikoto, and Kinohata Sai heard Frenda's grumbling and their expressions lightened up. Of course, just because they got over it doesn't mean others will let them off the hook. Shokuho Misaki glanced at Mikoto's swimsuit and chuckled. Her chuckle was indescribably creepy. "Era Misaka-san, your swimsuit is pretty cute." Mikoto's expression changed dramatically. She forced a smile and said, "You think so too?" "I think so too, at least you won't show off like that." She's mocking Shokuho Misaki for showing off. Showing off isn't a bad thing? Shokuho Misaki smiled and yawned. She stretched her body and pushed her voluptuous breasts up. She almost broke the straps of her swimsuit. Even if you want to show off, you need to have what it takes to do so. Shokuho Misaki looked at Mikoto's body and said meaningfully, "Of course, Misaka-san, if you want to show off, you'll have to wait a few years, no, maybe a decade." Asterisk beep. Asterisk, a bolt of lightning flashed across Mikoto's forehead, illuminating her embarrassed and angry face. She glared at Shokuho Misaki with rage. Shokuho Misaki, on the other hand, didn't seem to care about the fact that she's powerless. She was still giggling as if she knew Mikoto wouldn't attack her. Mikoto almost lost her rationality. At this time, Flandre-chan pouted her lips in dissatisfaction and pulled Hinajiku's hand. Sister Hinajiku, can we go out now? Flandre-chan wants Oni-san to see her swimsuit. Hinajiku smiled sheepishly. It's not that I don't want to go out, it's just that these two haven't settled their grudge yet. Mikoto, on the other hand, smiled brightly at Flandre-chan's words. Mikoto looked at Shokuho Misaki and smiled. What's the point of showing off? Are you going to seduce other men? I think it's fine if you don't have the right to show off as long as you say you like it. Simple words. That's what everyone wanted. Chuju, Kinohara Sai, and Frenda, who were looking down, suddenly regained their spirit. Astria and Takitsubu Riku, who weren't interested in this cup war, also perked up. Even Ikaros, who didn't say anything, had ripples in her eyes. Does he like my outfit or not? This thought appeared in everyone's mind, even Shokuho Misaki. However, Mikoto's counterattack made Shokuho Misaki unhappy. She immediately retorted. Little Yen will definitely like it. Shokuho Misaki sounded confident. Wu Yan's personality is something that even Hinajiku, Mikoto, and the others know about. She's good at manipulating people's minds. To put it simply, he doesn't care about outsiders, but he's a pervert to them. Shokuho Misaki is confident in her body, so she didn't think that Wu Yan wouldn't be attracted to her. When they're in bed, her body is one of the most delightful to him. Of course, all the girls felt the same way except for Astria. She was the only one who didn't get pushed down. She didn't know what Wu Yan thought of her. Chapter 384. Beside the azure sea, on the golden beach, several huge parasols had appeared out of nowhere. Under the huge parasols there were 10 long reclining chairs. Several small round tables were placed between these reclining chairs, on which there were various iced drinks and desserts. In the hot weather, one couldn't help but feel a chill in one's heart when looking at it. Under one of the umbrellas, Wu Yan is wearing a pair of shorts. He's wearing a pair of sunglasses and he's leisurely sipping from a bottle of drink. He looks like he's having a good time. Oni-chan, master. Flandre-chan and Astria ran over and jumped under the parasols. However, one of them jumped on Wu Yan while the other jumped on the table filled with drinks and desserts. When Flandre-chan jumped into Wu Yan's arms, a creaking sound could be heard. Wu Yan didn't feel any pain from Flandre-chan's attack, but the recliner under him groaned in pain. Wu Yan might be strong enough to withstand Flandre-chan's attack, but he still had a drink in his mouth. Flandre-chan's attack caused Wu Yan's eyes to bulge. The drink in his mouth turned into a mist and splashed onto the beach. Wu Yan didn't know whether to laugh or cry as he hugged Flandre-chan. Flandre-chan, are you trying to choke me to death? Flandre-chan stuck out her tongue and smiled sheepishly. However, she didn't want to come down and she snuggled into Wu Yan's arms. Wu Yan couldn't help but smile bitterly. Yan, you're quite fast. You've even prepared all these. Hinajiku leisurely walked in front of Wu Yan, staring at the parasols, and said with a bit of surprise. Wu Yan can only roll his eyes and said in an exasperated tone. What do you mean fast? These things. It took me an hour to prepare them. That's the time you two took to change. Hinajiku chuckled dryly before muttering to herself. What are you talking about? Girls change clothes. Takes some time anyway. Unlike you. Then. Chuju glanced at Wu Yan. He's naked except for a pair of shorts. She blushed and turned her head away. Even though the two of them have been naked for quite some time now. Big brother, look at this swimsuit I'm wearing. Isn't it beautiful? Flandre-chan lifted her head from Wu Yan's arms. She tried her best to raise her body so that Wu Yan could see her. She looked at Wu Yan with anticipation. Not bad. It's cute. Smiling at Flandre-chan, Wu Yan nodded in approval. Flandre-chan couldn't help but giggle in delight. At this time, Wu Yan noticed that the girls had all come out of the villa. They followed behind Chuju and appeared in front of Wu Yan. Their swimsuits of different sizes stunned Wu Yan. He couldn't help but feel a little dizzy. Wu Yan's reaction was seen by the girls. Seeing Wu Yan in a daze, the girls smiled. They were very excited. After all, they were just discussing whether Wu Yan liked them or not. Wu Yan's reaction was enough to explain everything. Shokuho Misaki came out of the crowd and came in front of Wu Yan. She grabbed his arm and pressed her breasts against Wu Yan's arm. Wu Yan couldn't take it anymore. Little Yan, do you like my swimsuit? Shokuho Misaki smiled sweetly at Wu Yan. At the same time, she didn't stop. She continued to rub against Wu Yan's arm. Wu Yan knew Shokuho Misaki's personality very well. He could guess why she suddenly used her seduction ability. She must be trying to steal Mikoto's attention again. Wu Yen glanced at Mikoto's pale face. He was even more certain of his guess. He became vigilant. He didn't want to say the wrong thing and cause a fire in his backyard. Not bad, it looks good. Wu Yen chuckled. He didn't mention whether he liked it or not. Mikoto relaxed a bit, but Shokuho Misaki was also displeased by his response. Shokuho Misaki touched her face. She looked like she was about to cry. Did I really become old? Little Yen, you don't like me anymore? Wu Yen raised an eyebrow and the corner of his mouth started twitching. He wanted to flip the table. Shokuho Misaki might have become old, but she must have lost her integrity. He rubbed his forehead and he didn't say anything else. Shokuho Misaki got bored and her tearful expression disappeared. She clicked her tongue and she turned her head away in frustration. She saw Mikoto gloating at her misfortune. She's saying, "See? You only know how to show off." Shokuho Misaki's expression froze up. She bit her lip and looked at Wu Yen. Her starry eyes turned around and after her first plan failed, she came up with another. She grinned. She pulled out a bottle of sunscreen from somewhere and held it in her hand. She looked at Wu Yen with hope in her eyes. "Little Yen, help me put on the sunscreen." When the words "use sunscreen" came out of her mouth, Wu Yan's emotionless face rippled and his heart rippled as well. How could Wu Yen not know what it means to put on sunscreen? It means that his chance to take advantage of her has arrived. The other girls were shocked as well. They didn't expect Shokuho Misaki to have such a trick up her sleeves. Wu Yan's eyes were filled with a sinister glint. Wu Yen looked at Shokuho Misaki with surprise. Wu Yen knew that something must have happened between these girls, otherwise they wouldn't be fighting in the dark like this. Wu Yen told himself that he must not get involved in this. His past experiences have proven that if he gets involved, the one who will suffer in the end will be him. When he heard that Shokuho Misaki wanted him to help her apply sunscreen, he tossed his guard aside. He took the sunscreen from her and he pretended to sigh. "I really don't know what to do with you." The girls were furious. They cursed Wu Yen for being a pervert. How could he be seduced so easily? Shokuho Misaki gave Mikoto a provocative look. Mikoto gritted her teeth in anger. She stood up and pointed at Wu Yen while shouting loudly. "Me too. Help me put on the sunscreen too." Mikoto ignored Wu Yen and she looked at Shokuho Misaki. Shokuho Misaki didn't back down and she glared back at Mikoto. Their gazes collided with each other and it felt like a storm of blood was about to erupt. As for Wu Yen looking at the two beauties going at each other like this, he had a timid look on his face but inside he's laughing like a flower. He finally realized that a fire in the backyard doesn't necessarily mean it's a fire that's burning the eyebrows, it could also bring about a lot of benefits. In any case, in the end he would be the one who would gain the most advantage from the fight between the two women. Behind Mikoto, Hinajiku and the other girls looked at each other. They didn't know what to do. They knew that Wu Yen is going to be the final winner. Thus, Hinajiku picked up Flandre-chan. "Hey Flan, big sister will take you swimming, okay?" Flandre-chan's eyes lit up. She clapped her hands and cheered. Okay. Flan wants to swim." Kinuhata Sayai and Frenda looked at each other and said at the same time, "We want to go too." The four beauties left just like that. Astria only had food in her eyes. Only Ikaros and Takitsubu Riku were left. After some hesitation, Ikaros stood up and lowered her head shyly. "My master, I want to." "Me too." Takitsubu Riku raised her hand meekly to show that she was willing to be taken advantage of. Wu Yen looked at Mikoto, Shokuho Misaki, Ikaros and Takitsubu Riku. He smiled wickedly. "Since you guys came to me willingly, don't blame me for being rude." Chapter 385. Not far away from the beach, Chuju, Flandre-chan, Kinuhata Sayai, and Frenda were happily playing in the water. They seemed to have forgotten about the conflict in the mansion. Astria was still eating and drinking under a parasol. Everything looked so peaceful. Shokuho Misaki, Mikoto, and Takitsubu Riku were lying on 3 mats under a coconut tree. Behind them, a wolf was uncorking a bottle of sunscreen. Its claws were rubbing against each other, it looked like it was ready to pounce. As for Ikaros, she's just standing there in a daze. Her indigo eyes stared at Wu Yen with a pitiful expression. Since there are only 3 mats, Ikaros was excluded from the list and temporarily escaped from Wu Yan's clutches. However, she doesn't seem to be too happy about it. Shokuho Misaki glanced sideways at Mikoto, and Mikoto did the same thing. Both of their gazes collided with each other, and it seemed like they were still competing. Takitsubu Riku, on the other hand, seemed to be frightened by the atmosphere between the two. She lowered her head and didn't dare to look at them. Who's going first? Applying sunscreen on his hand, Wu Yen glanced at the two girls. He pretended he didn't see the interaction between the two girls and told them. However, his voice couldn't hide the excitement in it. Of course I'll go first. Shokuho Misaki immediately said. Mikoto shut her mouth. She turned her head away angrily. It doesn't matter who goes first, it's not like they said that whoever goes first wins. Shokuho Misaki seemed to have seen through Mikoto's thoughts. She narrowed her eyes and smiled. It was a meaningful smile. Shokuho Misaki straightened her body and reached behind her back. She pulled out her swimsuit. She undid it. Wu Yan's hand trembled and he almost smeared the sunscreen on the coconut tree. Mikoto's expression changed as well before her expression changed drastically. The redness began to spread to her face. It looked like she was provoked by something. He shouted angrily at Shokuho Misaki. You, what are you doing? You filthy woman. Shokuho Misaki laughed and mocked Mikoto. Misaka classmate, what you're saying isn't right. Isn't it normal to use sunscreen? Don't tell me that Misaka-san wants to make your skin black and white? But. Mikoto blushed, stuttered. But this is the beach in public. Shokuho Misaki shook her head and looked at Mikoto with disdain. There are no other men on the beach and Xiao Yen is my lover. Xiao Yen has already seen my body. My lover. Mikoto lowered her head. Wu Yen and Shokuho Misaki could see steam coming out of Mikoto's head. Shokuho Misaki's bold statement was a fatal blow to Mikoto. Shokuho Misaki smiled triumphantly. She didn't even notice that a certain wolf behind her was trying its best to turn its neck, trying to see through Shokuho Misaki's back. It wanted to see all of her breasts, but it was quickly disappointed. Shokuho Misaki made it sound like she's a generous person, but she's not that generous to expose her ample bosom to the sun. She prodded Mikoto for a bit before she laid down on the mat. Her two bunnies pressed down on the mat and her ample bosom started poking out. Wu Yan's mouth went dry when he saw this. He almost lost control of himself and decided to use Shokuho Misaki to vent his lust. Taking a deep breath, he looked at Shokuho Misaki's back and he decided to let go of his pretense. He applied sunscreen on his hand and he pressed down on Shokuho Misaki's back. Ah! The sudden chill made Shokuho Misaki scream. Mikoto, Ikaros, and Takitsubu Riku's face turned red when they heard Shokuho Misaki scream. Wu Yen rubbed his hand on Shokuho Misaki's back and spread the sunscreen on her back. Shokuho Misaki's beautiful long hair covered her entire back. Wu Yen rubbed her back gently and a pleasant sensation came from his hand. Wu Yen narrowed his eyes. And then, maybe Wu Yan's technique was too good, but Shokuho Misaki's face started to turn red. Shokuho Misaki felt like Wu Yan's hand was magical. The heat from his hand made Shokuho Misaki moan. Shokuho Misaki's face turned red when she realized how embarrassing her voice was. She regretted her actions. Shokuho Misaki never thought that Wu Yan's hand would make her lose her composure. If she knew this would happen, she wouldn't have fought with Mikoto even if she was beaten to death. It was better than making such embarrassing sounds in front of Mikoto. Shokuho Misaki didn't know that Mikoto didn't have the time to think about this. She was scared silly by Shokuho Misaki's shinin. At this time, Mikoto was worried that when it was her turn, she wouldn't be able to do the same. Takitsubu Riku was the same. Shokuho Misaki couldn't hold back her sobs anymore. She couldn't let Wu Yan continue like this. If this continues, she'll be embarrassed. Under Wu Yan's touch, her body started to feel a strange sensation. Her skin started to turn red and she started to panic. At the end of the day, Shokuho Misaki only had sex with Wu Yan once. She didn't sleep with Wu Yan after that. After tasting the forbidden fruit for the first time, her resistance to this kind of thing dropped quite a bit. Now that Wu Yan is teasing her, it's only natural for her to react. Worried that she might embarrass herself, Shokuho Misaki quickly explained herself. Okay Yen-chan, go help Misaka-san. Shokuho Misaki wanted to stop, but a certain someone didn't want to. How is it okay? There are still a lot of places that haven't been cleaned yet. Wu Yan said in a righteous tone. He didn't seem like he was going to stop. Shokuho Misaki was stunned. She realized that in the end, this wolf is going to be the one who will win. And then, before Shokuho Misaki could react, an indescribable sense of pleasure surged through her body. Shokuho Misaki couldn't hold her breath, so a seductive moan escaped her lips. Shokuho Misaki finally panicked. Shokuho Misaki's bikini covered lower half of her body. A hand had already reached in and grabbed her buttocks and started to rub them hard. No. No way. Shokuho Misaki stared blankly at the hand on her buttocks. She panicked when she thought about her current state. If Misaka Mikoto saw her like this, she wouldn't be able to face anyone anymore. Fortunately, Mikoto was scared by Shokuho Misaki's moans. She buried her head like Takitsubu Riku. Shokuho Misaki heaved a sigh of relief. The smart Shokuho Misaki knew that she couldn't back down now. She could either surrender and beg Wu Yen in front of Mikoto for mercy. However, she would rather die than make this choice. Rather than begging Wu Yen for mercy in front of Misaka Mikoto, he might as well continue to shinin. At least he can use the excuse of being too comfortable to refuse. However, if he begs for mercy, he will be laughed at by Misaka Mikoto for the rest of his life. Shokuho Misaki had no choice but to endure Wu Yan's assault. She tried her best to hold back her moans. Chapter 386. Big Sister. Quick. Go there. Go there. Pointing in a random direction, Flandre-chan chuckled at Frenda who is sitting on her back. Her voice is filled with joy. This game may seem childish but Flandre-chan is having a lot of fun playing it. Yes, I got it. Frenda sighed helplessly. She wasn't happy about Flandre-chan calling her big sister, because her name is so similar to Flandre-chan's. Flandre-chan had no choice but to call her big sister. But I told you not to move around, okay? Otherwise, I won't be able to stand properly. Wah. As soon as she finished speaking, Frenda stepped on a round rock. She lost her balance and fell down. Flandre-chan, who was riding on her shoulder, fell into the water as well. Wah. Frenda was shocked. She quickly carried Flandre-chan out of the water. Flandre-chan had swallowed a few mouthfuls of seawater and her face was filled with bitterness. She stuck out her tongue and her face fell. Pui, it's disgusting. Are you super okay? Kinuhada-sai looked at Flandre-chan and asked. She put a swimming ring on Flandre-chan so that she can float on the water. Flandre-chan looked at Kinuhada-sai with a bitter face and shook her head. She stuck out her tongue again. Why is the water in the sea so disgusting? Kinuhada-sai and Frenda looked at each other and laughed awkwardly. How are they supposed to explain such a profound question to a child? Even if they roughly explained it, Flandre-chan would only be confused. She might even ask more questions. They've seen a lot of this in Academy City. Chuju swam over from afar and kicked the water with her little legs. She looks like she's having a lot of fun. But if you look closely, you'll notice that Chuju's yellow-green eyes are constantly looking at the beach. Seriously, why are they taking so long? At this moment, under a coconut tree in the distance, the ripples were still going on. Isn't it time to change the person? Shokuho Misaki's face was flushed red. Finally, she could not help but turn around to look at Wu Yen. Shokuho Misaki felt that her eyes were filled with water vapor, and they were rippling like the surface of a lake. If Wu Yen continues like this, I will really lose my composure. Wu Yen giggled as he toyed with Jisama's buttocks. He pulled his hand out of Shokuho Misaki's bikini pants. Shokuho Misaki released a sigh of relief. However, Shokuho Misaki's heart skipped a beat the next second. Her heart skipped a beat. Wait. Shokuho Misaki felt Wu Yan's hand slowly move from her buttocks to her soft back, then from her soft back to the sides. Shokuho Misaki couldn't help but open her mouth. Unfortunately, Shokuho Misaki couldn't speak anymore. His hand gently pressed and pinched Shokuho Misaki's soft buttocks. Wu Yen could clearly feel Shokuho Misaki's body trembling along with his movements. Her skin started to turn red. Wu Yen laughed in his heart. As expected, her chest is Jisama's weakness. Shokuho Misaki bit her lips to stop herself from letting out the moans that were already at her throat. Shokuho Misaki wanted to cry but no tears came out. For the first time in her life, Shokuho Misaki hated her breasts. No matter the shape, size, or smoothness, Shokuho Misaki was always proud of her breasts. But why was it her sensitive spot? Her body trembled along with Wu Yan's touch. Shokuho Misaki's heart trembled along with it. Her body was getting weaker and weaker. Shokuho Misaki wanted to beg for mercy but when she remembered that Misaka Mikoto was beside her, she couldn't bring herself to do so. In the end, she could only look at Wu Yen with pleading eyes. Wu Yen continued to pinch Shokuho Misaki's soft buttocks. Shokuho Misaki moaned a few times before he finally pulled his hand back. At the same time, Shokuho Misaki lost all her strength and collapsed onto the mat. She gasped for air and couldn't lift her body. She still needs more training. Shokuho Misaki wanted to punch him in the face. Wu Yen turned around and smiled at Mikoto. Mikoto, it's your turn, huh? Mikoto raised her head and saw Shokuho Misaki's blushing face. Recalling Shokuho Misaki's shinin, Mikoto's face turned even redder. I think I should ask Chuju to help me, Mikoto giggled. She couldn't help but avert her gaze. When she thought about how she will end up like Shokuho Misaki, her heart started pounding. She hurriedly said that and she stood up. Suddenly, Shokuho Misaki, who was still gasping for air, got up from the mat. She didn't care that her boobs were exposed to Wu Yen as she pounced on Mikoto. She hugged Mikoto's waist and pressed Mikoto back down on the mat. What are you doing? Mikoto was shocked when she saw Shokuho Misaki hugging her waist and refusing to let her get up. Mikoto yelled. Shokuho Misaki's face was still flushed red and she was still panting, but she forced a smile on her face. She gritted her teeth and said to Mikoto, "Humph, since this queen is already in this state, don't you dare think you can stay out of this. You damn woman." Mikoto finally understood that Shokuho Misaki was trying to drag her down with her. She screamed and pushed Shokuho Misaki away with all her might. Quick, help her put on the sunscreen. Shokuho Misaki shouted at the dumbfounded Wu Yen. At the same time, she unleashed her full potential. As a sports idiot, Shokuho Misaki managed to restrict Mikoto's movements. What the hell is going on? Wu Yan's jaw dropped as he watched the two girls wrestle with each other. He didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Shokuho Misaki is really desperate. She actually helped her husband hold down another woman. Fine, Wu Yen has to admit that this is an unimaginable situation. It's a good thing anyway. Wu Yen snickered and rubbed the sunscreen on his hands. He quickly reached out with both hands and pressed them on Mikoto's cute bra. Mikoto stiffened up and her hands that were pushing Shokuho Misaki went limp. Mikoto's face turned red as she yelled at Wu Yen in a coquettish manner. "Yen, you idiot." Ugh. Before Mikoto could finish her words, a pair of large hands covered in sunscreen slid under her bra and into her chest. Grabbing her two little white bunnies, he began to gently knead them. Mikoto's brown eyes glazed over. She lost all her strength and collapsed on the mat, allowing Wu Yen to do whatever he wants to her. Shokuho Misaki's eyes flashed with pride and she followed suit. That's because one of Wu Yan's hands came out of Mikoto's bra and grabbed one of her breasts. Grabbing a pair of big and small boobs, he pinched them while squinting his eyes. He turned to look at Takitsubu Riki, who was petrified and sighed in his heart. "Ans, why don't you have two more?" Wu Yen chuckled as he removed his hands from Mikoto's breasts and placed them on the trembling Takitsubu Riku. He gently undid the straps on her swimsuit. Chapter 387. Time passed by slowly. The noon sun is slowly setting in the west. Chuju, Flandra-chan, Kinuhada Sai, and Frenda are starting to feel tired. They originally wanted to wait for Wu Yen and the others to come down and play together, but they gave up on the idea and headed back to the beach. When the four girls returned to the shelter, a long barbecue grill was set up there. There were all kinds of meat slices and skewers placed on top of the grill. Wu Yen was standing behind the grill, spinning the grill in his hand as he tossed the raw meat from the table beside him into the grill. The barbecued meat on the grill started to glow. Wu Yen skillfully sprinkled some seasonings on the barbecued meat before brushing it with a layer of oil. Instantly, the barbecued meat turned into a golden orange color. The aroma of the barbecued meat made one salivate. One look and you can tell that the barbecued meat isn't just beautiful on the surface. Astria stared at the barbecued meat with her crimson eyes. The aroma of the barbecued meat wafted into her nose. Astria couldn't help but twitch her nose. Her face was filled with desire. That was to be expected. With Astria's digestive system, as long as the food wasn't too disgusting, she could eat it all. Even raw food that wasn't processed wasn't too bad. Wu Yan's culinary skills are top-notch. On the ability tab. Even though he doesn't have cooking expert anymore, it's only because he merged it with infinite martial arts. Wu Yan still has cooking expert. Back then, Kaishisama was slowly conquered by Wu Yan's stomach before he started attacking her heart. Even Kaishisama couldn't resist the temptation of Wu Yan's delicious food, let alone Astria, who has a huge appetite. "Master." Astria looked at Wu Yen with teary eyes. She looked at Wu Yen with a pitiful expression. Her eyes were filled with pity. It's obvious that this gluttonous angel who just stuffed 10 cakes into her mouth was once again lured out by Wu Yan. Got it, I'll be done soon. Wu Yan chuckled at Astria. He couldn't help but sneak a peek at Astria's flat stomach. He complained in his mind. Which part of Astria's body did she stuff all those things into? Is this the reason why Astria's combat prowess is so strong? She's a god of war. Is it because she has the ability to transform food into combat power? Flandrachan saw this scene and yelled out. He immediately yelled and ran over. Hinajiku, Kinuhada Sai, and Frenda wrinkled their noses in dissatisfaction. You're back. Wu Yen flashed a bright smile as he greeted the 4 girls. He acted like nothing happened. It's very infuriating. We've been waiting for you in the water for half a day. I didn't expect you to be enjoying a barbecue here. Chuju walked in front of the grill and snorted at Wu Yen. She sounded annoyed. Mama. Wu Yen waved his hand and continued what he was doing. He looked up at Hinajiku. I was worried that you might get hungry, so I prepared some food for you. Kinuhada Sai raised an eyebrow. She looked at Wu Yen and mocked him. Are you really that considerate? Frenda tilted her head and glanced at Wu Yen. She asked suspiciously. So, did you do something bad that you don't want us to know? Is that why you're having a barbecue here, to cover it up? His body trembled for a bit before he regained his composure. Wu Yen shook his head as he laughed at the 3 girls. Inside he's scared witless. Kinuhada Sai and Frenda, they've only been with him for less than 2 months, yet they know him so well. Don't tell me they know the rumored mind-reading ability? Chuju narrowed her eyes and looked around. She suddenly remembered the sunscreen incident. She turned to Wu Yen and asked in a serious tone. Where are Mikoto and the others? His body trembled and he almost dropped the barbecued meat in his hand onto Kaishisama's flat breasts. Wu Yen laughed dryly and he gestured towards the coconut tree beside him with his lips. Aren't they sunbathing over there? Chuju, Kinuhada Sai, and Frenda looked in the direction Wu Yen pointed at. They saw Mikoto, Shokuho Misaki, and Takitsubu Riku lying on a mat under the coconut tree. They looked like they had fallen asleep. Ikaros was fanning them. It did look like they were sunbathing. The 3 girls were relieved. Of course, if the 3 girls were to get close to Mikoto, Shokuho Misaki, and Takitsubu Riku, they would notice that their skin is flushed red and their swimsuits are a little messy. Most importantly, their bodies are trembling and their chests are heaving up and down violently. Retracting their gaze, they looked at the barbecued meat on the grill. Kinuhada Sai and Frenda swallowed their saliva as they looked at the golden barbecued meat on the grill. Looks like it's super delicious. I didn't expect you to be so good at cooking. Looking at Kinuhada Sai and Frenda's drooling faces, Wu Yen smiled proudly. Chuju stroked her pink hair and said with a sigh. Yen, you're really good at cooking. Now that I think about it, it's been a long time since I've eaten your cooking. She recalled the first time she met Wu Yen. She brought him to the student council for revision, she brought him to the exams, and she took in the homeless Wu Yen as her housekeeper. They went to school together, left class together, and went home together. When it was time for their meals, she and her mother would sit at the dining table and wait for Wu Yan's cooking. She would eat as much as she could. The memories kept replaying in her mind and a warm smile slowly blossomed on her face. Looking at Wu Yan, her gaze gradually softened. After all, those days may have been ordinary, but for Hinajiku, it was a very happy and unforgettable experience. After becoming Wu Yan's summon, Chuju's days were very fulfilling and happy. Even more so after having Mikoto and the others as her friends. Even though there were dangerous battles, it's undeniable that compared to her previous life, Chuju was happier when she was with Wu Yan. The only blemish was that this scoundrel had too many girls around him. Thinking up to here, Hinajiku's gentle gaze started to show signs of dissatisfaction. Coincidentally, Wu Yan raised his head at this moment. He didn't see Kaishisama's gentle gaze, but this dissatisfaction is well hidden. His body trembled again as his heart started beating faster. Did she find out about his sunscreen incident? Master, are you done yet? Astria's wings started flapping as hard as they could. Her pure white wings unfurled and the feathers started falling towards the barbecue on the grill. Chuju, Kinuhada Sai, and Frenda were shocked. Their 3 pairs of arms and 6 palms quickly waved above the grill to catch the feathers that fell from Astria's wings. Oi, don't throw the feathers around. No matter how fragrant the meat is, once it's stained with feathers, I won't dare to eat it anymore. Kinuhada Sai grabbed a handful of feathers and muttered in dissatisfaction. Frenda nodded her head furiously as she looked at the barbecued meat on the grill with lingering fear. It seems like they were really attracted by the aroma. I can't wait anymore. Astria pouted and said with teary eyes. Wu Yan couldn't help but feel helpless. He looked at Chuju and said, Chuju, go get some desserts for Astria to fill her stomach? Hinajiku nodded and Astria cheered before jumping into Wu Yan's arms. Yeah. Master is the best. Disciple. Let go. Mate. The sun slowly sank below the horizon amidst the laughter of the crowd. Chapter 388. Happy times always pass by quickly. Amidst the laughter of the group of 10, the curtain of night was about to fall in the blink of an eye. When the sun set from above the sea level to the other side, the sky suddenly darkened and then brightened up again. Different from the daytime, the white cloud ribbons in the sky were now emitting faint red stars and light, illuminating the entire sky with the color of dusk and then the silver of the stars. Under the beautiful starlight, the stones that didn't seem to have any color during the day were now shining brightly like bright red diamonds. It was so beautiful that the group of 10 people standing by the beach were all stunned by it. That's right. It's so beautiful. Flandrachan's wine-red eyes were filled with splendor as she stared at the horizon and the ocean. She couldn't help but clench her fists tightly together. The lively Flandrachan seemed to have lost her ability to speak and move at this moment. She could only mutter a sentence to express her current feelings. Hinajiku, Mikoto, Ikaros, Shokuho Misaki, Astria, Kinuhada Sayai, Frenda, and Takitsubu Riku were also looking at the beautiful scenery. Everyone's heart calmed down. The beautiful scenery created a picturesque scene with the sea and sky. After a while Chuju smiled. She said softly, This time I was right to come. The girls nodded and they smiled. Wu Yan's heart blossomed when he saw the smiles on the girls' faces. He put on the most comfortable smile and the 9 girls looked at him in a daze. Nana, Oniai-chan? Flandrachan tugged on Wu Yan's hand. She stared at Wu Yan's face with her ruby-like eyes. She looked at him with a hopeful expression. Next time bring Flandrachan and the other sisters to the beach, okay? Chuju, Mikoto, and the other girls turned to look at Wu Yan. Their eyes were filled with hope. Just like Flandrachan. They were all hopeful. It seems like they are also hopeful. They can go on a beach trip like this again. Wu Yan smiled. He squatted down and picked up Flandrachan. He looked at the girls and said in a half-joking, half-serious tone. So, did you girls have fun today? Hinajika laughed, Mikoto laughed, the girls all laughed, they all looked at each other before turning to Wu Yan and said in unison. Of course. Wu Yan laughed out loud and he hugged Flandrachan even tighter. Alright then, let's do it again next time. Yeah, the girls cheered. As night fell, the 10 of them returned to the villa. They laid out the barbecued meat that Wu Yan just finished roasting in the living room along with the desserts, snacks, and drinks that they prepared beforehand. The 10 of them formed a circle as they laughed and joked around while destroying the food in front of them. Each of them had a wide grin on their faces. Of course, they weren't always harmonious. For example, Mikoto and Shokuho Misaki were eternal rivals. They would quarrel every now and then and they would turn their fire on Wu Yan. Wu Yan was under a lot of pressure. Flandrachan, on the other hand, got together with Astria. Flandrachan looked like a child less than 10 years old while Flandrachan looked like a young lady in her prime. However, both of them had the same naivety and intelligence. Therefore it was a perfect fit for both of them to be together. Of course, that's if Astria doesn't teach Flandrachan how to eat. Kinuhada Sayai, Frenda, and Takitsubu Riku have been in the same organization ever since they were in Academy City. That's why their relationship is so good. No matter where they go, they get along very well. After that, they got together with Shokuho Misaki in Silveria World Institute. That's why they're not as unfamiliar with each other as they were in the beginning. On the other hand, Hinajiku and Ikaros are actually able to chat and laugh together. This really surprised him. But it's not that strange. Hinajiku may be at Sundra, but she still has an unconcealable gentleness in her bones. Ikaros is the same, she's as gentle as water towards the people she cares about. In a way, they are similar in some ways. In fact, strictly speaking, the 9 girls present more or less had some similarities. Even though their personalities were quite different, they were all the same. They wouldn't hesitate to do stupid things for the people they cared about. Perhaps this was the reason why the girls were willing to come together despite the constant friction on the surface. Before the party ended, Shokuho Misaki frowned. She tugged at her swimsuit and turned to Wu Yan. Yan, where's the bathroom? My body feels sticky after soaking in the seawater, it's a little uncomfortable. Hearing Shokuho Misaki's words, the girls quieted down and started to frown. Indeed, after hearing Shokuho Misaki's words, they started to feel a little uncomfortable. Wu Yen paused for a second before nodding his head. He mused for a bit before smiling. I remember that when I rented this villa, I saw in the introduction that there was a hot spring in one of the rooms on the ground floor. The eyes of the girls brightened up and their spirits jolted. Their faces showed traces of excitement which made Wu Yen chuckle. He knew it, girls have zero resistance to hot springs and whatnot. The room on the ground floor? I got it. Mikoto stood up impatiently and pulled Hinajiku over. Chuju, let's go soak in the hot spring together. Hinajiku nodded immediately. She was also looking forward to the hot spring. All the girls were the same. After soaking in the sea water, they could soak in the hot spring. It must be said that this was a very tempting experience. So, one by one, they stood up from the floor and ran towards the hot spring in groups. We haven't finished eating yet. Wu Yen was stunned when he saw all the girls running out. He quickly called out to the girls, but what he got in return was a voice that came from afar. Let's eat later. In the end, only Wu Yen was left. He sat in front of a pile of food and watched the girls running away. He didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Sighing, Wu Yen picked up a feather from Astria's wing and mumbled. Aren't you a foodie? Why are you attracted to the hot spring as well? Wu Yen saw another feather on the ground. It was pink in color. Wu Yen sighed again. All right, even Ikaros abandoned her master for the sake of the hot spring. Wu Yen didn't know that even if all the hot springs in the world were placed in front of Ikaros, it still wouldn't be as important as her master. The reason why Ikaros isn't here is because Hinajiku, conveniently, dragged her away. Finishing his drink in one gulp, Wu Yan's mind started drifting away. After all, it was so lively just a moment ago and now he's the only one left. More or less, he's not used to it. Wu Yen looked at the direction where the girls disappeared. He rolled his eyes and whispered. How about I go soak in the hot spring too? They're all my wives anyway. Wu Yen shook his head with a bitter smile. I'm afraid Mikoto will electrocute me the moment I enter and everyone in the hot spring will be injured by the electric current. Wu Yen looked at the food on the ground. He rolled his eyes and smiled evilly. I can't get my hands on the hot spring, but I can get my hands on the food as well. Chapter 389. Inside a room on the ground floor of the mansion. When the girls pushed open the wooden door, they were greeted by a wooden changing room. There were two similar wooden wardrobe racks on both sides of the room. There was another wooden door on the other side of the door. Warm air seeped out from the gap between the wooden door and steam filled the room. The girls' intuition told them that there must be a hot spring behind the wooden door. Flandre-chan's face was filled with joy, her nose sniffed the air. It smells so good inside. Astria mimicked Flandre-chan and sniffed the air. A fragrance entered Astria's nose and her face lit up. Ugh. It smells so good, is there anything good inside? It's not good, dummy. Kinuhata Sai shook her head with a smile. Astria wasn't happy with the word dummy. You're the dummy? Dummy. Dummy. Kinuhata Sai's mouth twitched, she couldn't keep her cool. I feel like I'm such a failure, I got called a dummy by a dummy? Shokuho Misaki walked into the changing room and picked up a bottle from the corner. This is probably the reason. This isn't a proper hot spring hotel, the hot spring must have a strong distilled smell. If we don't remove the distilled smell, the hot spring won't work. Whatever, it doesn't matter where the smell comes from. Mikoto walked into the changing room impatiently. Anyway, let's soak in the hot spring first. The girls couldn't help but nod and walk into the changing room. Daisy, who was at the back, pulled the wooden door and hesitated for a moment before locking it. It seemed like she was guarding against a certain wolf's sudden attack. The girls began to slowly take off their clothes. To be more precise, it should be swimsuits. Therefore, the swimsuits were taken off quickly. White and tender bodies suddenly appeared in the air of this space. Some were naked, some were young, and some were young. The body odor of the girls merged with the processed fragrance in the air. It was as if a pink atmosphere bloomed in the air. In front of the hot spring, the low-breasted women no longer looked at the big-breasted women. They pulled open the wooden door, and a hot spring covered in steam appeared in front of them, causing them to laugh in unison. Yo! Flandre-chan and Astria jumped into the hot spring, splashing water everywhere. The hot spring has different depths. The hot spring reaches up to Astria's chest. It didn't completely cover Astria's breasts, but it wasn't enough to make Astria shiver. The shallower part is only up to Flandre-chan's shoulders. It's just enough for her short stature to move around. Ugh, it's so comfortable. Flandre-chan and Astria closed their eyes and exhaled in comfort. The other 7 girls who haven't entered the pool yet were itching to get in as well. They all started running towards the hot spring. Wow, it's so warm. Kinuhata Sai slapped the surface of the water. She didn't care about her breasts. Her body floated on the surface of the water. She didn't mind if it was unsightly. In the end, I should have brought some drinks in. Drinking drinks while soaking in the hot spring? I'm almost drunk. She held her cheeks with both hands. There was indeed a slight blush on her cheeks, proving that she was indeed intoxicated. Shokuho Misaki chuckled as she splashed some water on herself. The water droplets slid down her delicate skin. It's a sight that would make anyone want to take a bite out of. Shokuho Misaki scanned the hot spring with her starry eyes. She stared straight at Astria's body. She tapped her lips and said in a tone as if she was measuring something. Aslia-chan, did your boobs get bigger again? Is that so? Astria flinched. She looked at her breasts that floated on the surface of the water. She blushed and shook her hands. No. Is that so? Shokuho Misaki looked at Astria suspiciously. Her lips curled into a sly grin. She slowly moved to Astria's side and grabbed Astria's breasts with both hands. She started rubbing her breast. Let me touch you. Don't. Astria screamed. Her body trembled from Shokuho Misaki's touch. Her expression changed and a seductive moan came out of her mouth. It looks like it really did get bigger. Shokuho Misaki muttered as she massaged Astria's breasts into all sorts of shapes. Seriously, they were already bigger than me and now they got even bigger. I can't accept this. Stop it. Astria collapsed onto Shokuho Misaki's body. She pressed her back against Shokuho Misaki's ass. She started panting when she heard Shokuho Misaki's words. Aikaro-senpai's are bigger than Astria's. Is that so? Shokuho Misaki turned to look at Ikaros. She saw Ikaros sitting quietly in a corner. Ikaros was stroking her wings. She seemed to be tidying them up. Her pair of wings bounced back and forth on the surface of the water, creating small ripples. Takitsubu Riku and Ikaros were sitting together with their eyes closed. The 2 women didn't like to talk, so they didn't participate in the conversation. They didn't seem to have heard Shokuho Misaki's words either. Shokuho Misaki shook the water off her blonde hair. She asked in confusion. It looks similar to Astria-chan's. Astria raised her hand meekly. But Master said Ikaros-senpai's breasts are his favorite. Shokuho Misaki raised an eyebrow. She gave Ikaros a deep look. Ikaros blushed a little, not sure if it's because the hot spring is too comfortable or because she heard Astria's words. Favorite? Shokuho Misaki narrowed her eyes. She looked at Ikaros' breasts for a second. Then at her own breasts she lowered her head. Shokuho Misaki humphed and said unwillingly. I won't lose either. That bastard doesn't care what size they are, as long as it's a girl, he'll like them. Admittedly, even if mind control doesn't work on Wu Yan, Jisama has a pretty good grasp of Wu Yan's intentions. In the other corner, Hinajiku and Mikoto looked at each other. They've been watching Shokuho Misaki's actions from start to finish. They turned their heads and looked at each other. Then they faced the wall and started drawing circles with their hands. Gosh. Chuju Nei-san. Mikoto, Nei-san, what's wrong? Flandre-chan flapped her crystal pendant wings and came in front of Chuju and Mikoto. She looked at their back and asked in confusion. Hearing this, Hinajiku and Mikoto turned around and looked at Flandre-chan. Their eyes couldn't help but move to Flandre-chan's chest, and their expressions became much better. Have we fallen to the point of comparing ourselves to a child? Chuju and Mikoto cried for a while before forcing a smile. And nothing. Oh. Flandre-chan didn't suspect anything and started playing with the water again. Chuju and Mikoto were envious of Flandre-chan's happy face. It's great to be a child, you don't have to worry about anything. Not far away, Kinuhata Sai and Frenda sighed when they saw the change in Chuju and Mikoto's expression. So, flat breasts are also a rare resource, why don't they understand? Frenda said slowly as if she understood the truth of the world. It's not clear if she really understood the truth or if she was just comforting herself. Kinuhata Sai pouted and continued to wander around. Chapter 390. Phew, this is so comfortable. A group of girls slowly walked out of the hot spring room, each holding a towel and wiping their bodies. The clothes they were wearing were no longer bathing suits with very little fabric, but bathrobes that they found inside. It had to be said that the owner of this villa had prepared everything. Ah, my body is so warm and fragrant. Flandre-chan skipped in front of the girls and ran towards the living room. Let Onii-chan smell you. You're super going to let that guy smell you? Kinuhata Sai pouted. Isn't this super convenient? The girls laughed, Frenda said. Well, it's good to be a kid, you don't have to think about anything. Choju and Mikoto nodded in unison. Frenda's words are exactly what they're thinking. Of course, the meaning is different. Under Flandre-chan's lead, the girls started to walk faster towards the main hall. After all, they'd been soaking in the hot spring for more than an hour. However, when the group of young ladies returned to the hall, the scene that appeared before them caused them to be stunned and astonished. Wu Yen is sitting in front of the pile of food with a glass in his hand. It's exactly the same as when they left. The only difference is that there's a lot of beer in the middle of the pile of food. The glass in Wu Yan's hand isn't filled with soft drinks, it's filled with yellow beer. You girls sure took a long time to take a bath. Wu Yen rolled his eyes and he gulped down the beer in one gulp. He also exhaled a huge mouthful of air. The girls looked at him in shock. Chuju asked in surprise. Yen, you're drinking? What's wrong? Is there something wrong? Wu Yen looked at Hinajiku with a puzzled expression. At the same time he filled his cup to the brim with beer. His actions looked so natural that the girls exchanged glances with each other. Mikoto walked up to Wu Yen and sat down. She grabbed a bottle of beer and frowned. Why do you suddenly want a drink? The other girls also looked at Wu Yen with the same doubt in their eyes. That's to be expected. Even Hinajiku, the oldest of them all, has never seen Wu Yen drink, so it's normal for her to have this kind of doubt. Wu Yen didn't think much of it. He sipped his wine and continued. I don't have any particular reason, I just suddenly felt like drinking. Wu Yen looked at the girls and said, You don't have to be so surprised, I'm in my 20s, there's nothing strange about drinking. But I've never seen you drink before? Chuju said. She stared at Wu Yan's carefree drinking. Her yellow-green eyes were filled with worry. Yen, you haven't been drinking since we left, have you? Wu Yen laughed. I'm not that tough, I might be an adult but I don't drink often, I can't hold my liquor that much. The girls released a sigh of relief, but Wu Yan's next sentence made them choke on their breaths. Well, you girls soaked for more than an hour, I only drank for an hour. An hour? Chuju and Mikoto raised their voices in disbelief. Hey. You really drank for an hour? Kinuhata Sai's jaw dropped. Beer's alcohol content isn't that high and there are plenty of people who can drink for an hour without stopping. But at the end of the day, out of the 9 girls here, at least 5 are underage. That's excluding Flandre-chan, Ikaros, and Estrella. There's also Shokuho Misaki. Her age will always be a mystery, at least no one would believe she's a middle school student. Since they have never had a drink before, of course they wouldn't know the extent of drinking beer for an hour straight. It's just that Wu Yen has never had a drink before. Now that he's drinking for so long, it's quite a surprise to them. You girls are exaggerating. Wu Yen couldn't help but laugh at the girls' shocked expressions. It's just beer, it's not something with high alcohol content. Even if I drink for an hour, I won't get drunk. It's not like I can say that. Drinking is bad for the body, it's not good to drink too much. Chuju said hesitantly. Wu Yen chuckled at Chuju's words. Well, it's fine to do it once in a while, right? The girls went silent for a while before they reluctantly accepted it. Wu Yen narrowed his eyes and raised the glass in his hand, finally revealing a hint of his wolf's ambition. Do you girls want some as well? The girls flinched. Shokuho Misaki suddenly smiled and stared at Wu Yen. Her eyes seemed to be able to see through a person's heart. Shokuho Misaki giggled at Wu Yen. I say, Yen, are you planning to get us drunk? That's why you brought out so much beer, right? The other girls flinched again. When they regained their senses, they glared at Wu Yen. It's clear that they believed Shokuho Misaki's words 100%. Because, with the Wu Yen they know, he's definitely capable of doing such a thing. Ignoring those piercing gazes, Wu Yen admitted to it in a straightforward and honest manner. That's right. I want to get you all drunk. The girls were stunned. Even if Shokuho Misaki said what Wu Yen was thinking, they didn't expect Wu Yen to admit it so easily. Wu Yen smiled. He knew from the start that he couldn't hide it from these smart girls, so he didn't plan to hide it. Wu Yen picked up a bottle of beer and said to the girls with a smirk. His tone was disdainful, as if he didn't care about anything. Do you all dare to drink? The girls were angered. Wu Yan's disdainful tone successfully made the girls who had made up their minds not to let Wu Yen have his way. Now they were angered by Wu Yen. It's just super beer. I, Kinuhata Sai, am a member of the Super Dark Department. I'm not afraid of death, why would I be afraid of a bottle of beer? Kinuhata Sai immediately stood up, narrowed her eyes and stared at Wu Yen. She grabbed a bottle of beer and poured it. Mikoto and Chuju were the same as Kinuhata Sai. These two girls are the ones who can't stand being provoked the most. Therefore, with Wu Yan's provocation, these two prideful girls stepped onto the path of no return. Let's drink then, who's afraid of who? After saying that, the two girls picked up a bottle of beer and poured a little. They hesitated for a moment before squinting their eyes and gulping it down. Then their eyes lit up and they started laughing. What the hell, this beer isn't as bad as I thought. In the end it's just beer, how bad can it be? Shokuho Misaki narrowed her eyes and thought. Since Wu Yen is alone and she has so many people on her side, even if she gets drunk, as long as she can get Wu Yen drunk as well, they won't lose anything. With that in mind, Shokuho Misaki also picked up a bottle of beer. Her eyes were filled with curiosity. She's curious about the taste of beer. In the end, Shokuho Misaki has never drunk beer before. At this time, Ikaros, Astria, and Takitsubu Riku already started pouring beer. They weren't provoked by Wu Yen, they just drank because Wu Yen asked them to. In the end, they all drank it. Frenda's mouth twitched. She hugged Flandre-chan, who also wanted to try the beer, and sighed. She reached for the bottle of beer. Chapter 391. Ahem, it's not that bad, but it's not that good either. Beer. It smells bad, but it's a little choking. It tastes like bitter tea. Bitter tea? Bitter tea is way more bitter than this. I'd rather drink alcohol than drink bitter tea. Ugh, Flan doesn't feel good. But kids can't drink it. My head feels a little dizzy. Ugh, I think so too. Wah. Astria passed out. Astria, wake up. This Flan feels dizzy. I told you kids can't drink it. As time passed, the faces of the girls who picked up the beer bottles began to turn red. Although the alcohol content of the beer wasn't much, the girls here had never drunk alcohol before. Therefore, just ordinary beer was enough to make them dizzy. The more the girls drank, the more blank their minds became. They couldn't think of anything else. At first they only took small sips. Later on, whenever Wu Yen raised his glass, they would reflexively gulp down the beer. They didn't notice that when they drank a glass, the empty glass in their hands would be filled up with beer without them noticing. Astria, who didn't know when to stop, and Flandre-chan, who didn't know what was going on, had already collapsed on the floor. The other 9 girls were blushing and their vision was blurry. They didn't even care about Astria and Flandre-chan, who passed out on the floor. They kept pouring beer into their mouths and started talking nonsense. This is a sign of drunkenness. Wu Yen, who has been drinking with the girls, is also feeling a little dizzy. However, Wu Yen didn't bother to deal with this feeling. He even allowed himself to stay in this state. Since he decided to have a good time, Wu Yen decided to indulge himself for once. The feeling of being drunk is a little uncomfortable, but for Wu Yen, this is a way to relax because he doesn't need to think about anything else. Perhaps the group of girls also had the same thought. Therefore, they subconsciously didn't use their own abilities to keep themselves awake. Of course, they would definitely regret it after this. The moon began to slowly climb into the sky, proving the extent of the night's progress. Empty beer bottles littered the ground. Hinajiku, Mikoto, Ikaros, Flandre-chan, Shokuho Misaki, Astria, Kinuhata Sai, Frenda, and Takitsubu Riku were all in the same state as the beer bottles. The girls were speechless at the sight of this. Wu Yen looked at the girls lying in front of him. Their faces were flushed red and their mouths were pouting. Wu Yan's wine-red eyes flashed a little before he smiled proudly. You want to compete with me in drinking? I might have lost to you 9 in the past, but now I am a true ancestor. Even if I don't suppress the alcohol in my body, I won't lose to you girls. Wu Yen muttered while shaking his head. His gaze landed on Flandre-chan and he bitterly smiled. I didn't think even Flandre-chan would get drunk. This is a huge sin. Wu Yen wobbled as he stood up. He may have knocked out the girls, but he drank quite a bit as well. He didn't try to suppress his drunkenness, he's a bit drunk as well. He's trying his best to maintain some semblance of sanity. He knows that he can't let Flandre-chan sleep on the ground. Wu Yen got up and picked Flandre-chan up. He staggered into a room and covered her with a blanket. Looking at Flandre-chan's blushing face, he smiled. She still had a smile on her face. It was as if she was dreaming of something good. Good night, little cutie. Wu Yen kissed Flandre-chan on the forehead before he walked out of the room and closed the door behind him. Well then. Wu Yan's red eyes landed on the girls on the floor. He put his hands on his hips and laughed. This is such a good opportunity. If I don't throw you girls into a bed, I'll be letting myself down. With a chuckle, Wu Yan finally started the busiest night of his life. He carried 8 girls into another room and tossed them into a bed. He then walked out of the room and picked up another girl. Again and again he tossed all 8 girls into the room. This room is the biggest room Wu Yan has seen since he came to this villa. Moreover, the bed is also the biggest in this villa. It can fit the bodies of 8 girls. Wu Yan couldn't help but feel sorrowful. Could it be that the owner of this villa also had the idea of sleeping together under the same blanket? Looking at the beauties in front of him, Wu Yan didn't have the time to think. He snickered and pounced on one of the girls. Coincidentally, it's Astria whom Wu Yan hasn't gotten his hands on yet. Wu Yan flinched when he realized that his casual pounce landed on Astria first. Then he felt the softness of the body beneath him and the feeling of those large breasts pressing against his body. He took a deep breath and then, with a violent tug, he tore Astria's clothes apart. Due to the effects of alcohol, Wu Yan didn't hold back. He tore off her clothes again. In the blink of an eye, he was naked with Astria. Lowering his head, Wu Yan kissed Astria on the lips. At the same time, his hands slid across her smooth skin and he rubbed Astria's large breasts. You. Astria whimpered as she felt something entering her mouth. She subconsciously responded to Lin Sanjiu's words. The two kissed each other with their tongues intertwined. Both of them tried their best to squeeze and lick each other's bodies. Astria started following her body's instincts even though she was in a daze. Burying his face into Astria's chest, Wu Yan felt so blissful that he almost wanted to sing. The result of this action is a suffocating feeling as if all the air in his body has been sucked out of him. But, compared to the fatally slippery feeling, the suffocating feeling is nothing. Finally, Wu Yan sucked in the crimson red he coveted. Astria moaned and straightened her body. Under Wu Yan's relentless assault, Astria moaned repeatedly. Her crimson eyes slowly opened. There was a misty look in them. Under the influence of alcohol and her body, Astria's brain that wasn't good at thinking to begin with lost its ability to think. She looked at Wu Yan who buried his head in her chest and she moaned in a daze while moaning softly. Master! The delicate master ignited the fire in Wu Yan's heart. Wu Yan pulled Astria under him and straightened his back. Astria's cries of pain echoed throughout the room. Aside from Flandre-chan, this gluttonous angel who didn't fall for Wu Yan finally became a true sister to Chuju and the others. You master. Astria hugged Wu Yan tightly as she kept moaning. Her crimson eyes turned misty as she followed Wu Yan's movements. Her body moved up and down as she moaned incessantly. Chapter 392. The silver moon quietly rotated, the frost quietly fell, the stars quietly emerged and the curtain of night quietly flowed. Some drifting black clouds seemed to have reached some kind of consensus with the moon and the stars to mind their own business. You occupy your territory and I occupy mine. There was no sign of the two sides converging at all. The waves surged onto the beach. As they rose and fell, the beach at the front was unusually wet. Compared to the dry sand at the back, there was an unusually clear difference in color. Some small animals were hiding in some corner, silently making their presence known and making their own noises, filling the night sky with lively chirping sounds. Inside a certain room in the mansion, the atmosphere was unbearably calm. Pain is unavoidable for a first-time experience. However, when the pain subsides, Astria's body and mind are filled with satisfaction. She couldn't help but moan in pleasure. Astria was like a small boat in the middle of a storm. Her body shook violently as she groaned in pain. A strange smell lingered in the room. The center of the storm became even more violent. Astria closed her eyes as she endured Wu Yan's thrusts. Waves after waves of unfamiliar sensations assaulted her. Astria hugged Wu Yan's neck tightly as she opened her mouth and moaned seductively. Astria couldn't hold back her desire. She didn't have any intention of suppressing it, she didn't care about the 7 sleeping girls beside her. She moaned as loudly as she could. Maybe it's because she hasn't regained her consciousness yet, or maybe it's because this idiot doesn't know what it means to be reserved. Wu Yan's evil fire burned brighter as he listened to Astria's sweet moans. His thrusts became even more violent as he pounced on Astria. The two of them slowly climbed to the top of the world. When the climax arrived, Astria let out a long moan. Her long moan echoed throughout the space. The space rippled with a faint pink hue. After lying on top of Astria for a few minutes, Wu Yan got up. Astria's crimson eyes glanced at Wu Yen subconsciously. Exhaustion flooded Astria's mind. She slowly closed her eyes and fell asleep. This time Wu Yen was lying on top of the body closest to Astria. It was Ikaros. Wu Yen reached out and caressed Ikaros's skin that has been caressed countless times. He kissed Ikaros on the lips. His tongue slid into her mouth and captured that little tongue that is slowly moving around. Slowly they started entangling. He gently tugged on the belt of Ikaros' bathrobe. Ikaros' bathrobe slid down to reveal her body. He lovingly caressed Ikaros' body until she moaned and her skin turned pink. Wu Yen hugged Ikaros and pressed her body against his. His chest pressed against Ikaros' body. He skillfully penetrated her. And then, the forceful entry caused Ikaros to moan. Ikaros slowly opened her eyes and her indigo-colored pupils landed on Wu Yan's face, who is right in front of her. It's unknown if she woke up or not. Ikaros was panting, her eyes were blurred. She closed her eyes and welcomed Wu Yan's thrusts. Thus, the light and hurried moaning sounds, but different sounds, once again resounded in this space. As time goes by, Ikaros's moans get louder and louder. At this point, even the thick walls can't block out her moans. Fortunately, in this villa and even the beach, other than Wu Yan's group of 10, there's no one else. Or else, the moans would be enough to make them tremble. Of course, just because no one else can hear it, doesn't mean their own people can't hear it. Yu. After who knows how long, when Wu Yen and Ikaros were entangled with each other, a faint whimper came from the side. Wu Yen reflexively turned his head towards the source of the whimper. Shokuho Misaki raised her hand and held her forehead. She struggled to open her eyes. Her pair of starry eyes blinked, telling Wu Yen that she's awake. Shokuho Misaki turned around and she was stunned as well. She didn't say anything else as she stood there frozen in place. She had a dumbfounded look on her face. The two of them stared at each other blankly. After a while, Shokuho Misaki finally regained her senses. She recalled the scene where she passed out drunk, the scene where the girls were lying on top of each other, and what Wu Yen is doing right now. She understood everything. Seeing Shokuho Misaki's face gradually turning red, Wu Yen cursed. Without waiting for her to react, he reached out and pulled her over. You. What are you doing? Don't tell me. Shokuho Misaki thought that her sobriety would make Wu Yen hesitate. Following Wu Yan's actions, her expression froze. The smart Shokuho Misaki seemed to have figured out what Wu Yen was going to do. She had a bad feeling. Wu Yen, I'm warning you. If you make me and the other girls do that with you, I will. Shokuho Misaki shouted at Wu Yen. But in the next moment, her words were blocked by Wu Yan's lips. You. Shokuho Misaki was stunned. She slapped Wu Yan's chest, trying to break free from Wu Yan's grasp. Alas, she's a sports idiot. Against a true ancestor, the result is obvious. When Wu Yen tore off Shokuho Misaki's bathrobe, Shokuho Misaki was thoroughly embarrassed. She couldn't believe that she was going to sleep in the same bed with the other girls and do such a thing. Shokuho Misaki could only whimper helplessly as she struggled in Wu Yan's arms. But when Wu Yen grabbed her breasts, Shokuho Misaki went limp and all her strength disappeared. At this time Wu Yen was still attacking Ikaros. Finally, after a loud moan, Ikaros's body collapsed on top of Wu Yan's body as if she lost all her bones. She panted heavily and closed her eyes in exhaustion. However, Wu Yen didn't stop. After leaving Ikaros's body, he immediately pressed Shokuho Misaki on top of him and spread her legs apart. Don't. Shokuho Misaki's weakness is too obvious. If Wu Yen gets his hands on her, she would be a lamb waiting to be slaughtered. She wouldn't be able to resist at all. Not to mention, Wu Yen isn't just controlling her, he's also tormenting her with all his might. Shokuho Misaki kept begging for mercy. Shokuho Misaki only had sex with Wu Yanhuan once. Now that she's about to have sex with him again, she was even more flustered than the first time. With her pride, sharing a man with another woman is already an unthinkable thing for her. Now that she's going to have to serve the same man, she couldn't accept the fact that she's going to have to serve the same man with him. But in the next moment, Wu Yen entered her forcefully again. Shokuho Misaki could only moan in pain. Chapter 393. Unlike Ikaros, Shokuho Misaki already had sex with Wu Yen once. Even though it wasn't that long ago, a man and a woman who tasted the forbidden fruit for the first time are like firewood and fire. Once they meet, it's only a matter of time before they start a fire. Therefore, with Wu Yan's entrance, Shokuho Misaki once again experienced the familiar yet strange feeling she had back in the Tokuwadai dorm. Her sensitive body made Shokuho Misaki completely lose her mind. Her heart was filled with pleasure, even the shame of sharing a bed with another girl was dispelled. She was panting and gasping for air. Her wine-red eyes were filled with resentment. That was Shokuho Misaki's silent complaint against Wu Yan's tyrannical behavior. However, as her body was pounded by Wu Yan, her resentment slowly faded away. What replaced it was a misty look and her eyes started tearing up. Shokuho Misaki has always been a sports idiot. Among all the girls she's probably the weakest. Even Flandre-chan with her powers sealed is better than Shokuho Misaki. Shokuho Misaki quickly reached her peak. She took a deep breath and slowly calmed down. She slumped on the floor, unable to get up again. Shokuho Misaki can't stand up anymore. She took a deep breath and slowly calmed down. She collapsed on the floor, unable to get up again. Ugh. He's not sure if it's because Shokuho Misaki's voice was too loud or if it's because of his bad luck, but when Shokuho Misaki surrendered, another soft murmur came. Wu Yan's hand that was about to touch the other girl froze in place. Under Wu Yan's gaze, a pair of brown eyes slowly opened. Unlike Shokuho Misaki, Mikoto didn't regain her ability to think the moment she woke up. Maybe it's because Mikoto's alcohol tolerance isn't that good. When those brown eyes opened, there's a hint of drunkenness in them. Yen, not sure if Mikoto realized what's going on, but when she saw Wu Yan she subconsciously called out and sat up on the bed. But Wu Yan didn't give her the chance. If Mikoto realizes what's going on, it won't be something that can be solved with just a few words. This violent and arrogant cis-canon, ever since the first time he raped her together with Chuju, she refused to sleep with her best friend in front of Wu Yan. If she finds out that there are 8 girls in this bed, she's going to make a move. But that's not important. What's important is that there's an existence in this bed that Mikoto can't tolerate, Shokuho Misaki. If Mikoto finds out that she's about to receive the same treatment as Shokuho Misaki, and it's after Shokuho Misaki, she's going to go berserk. So without waiting for Mikoto to get up, Wu Yan pounced on her and pinned her under his body. He reached out his hands and grabbed her breasts and started rubbing them. At the same time, he lowered his head and pressed it against her breasts, silencing her scream. Ugh. Mikoto's tea-colored eyes widened as she looked at Wu Yan who is so close to her. When her pair of bunnies fell into Wu Yan's hands, Mikoto's face instantly crumbled and turned into ripples. However, due to her prideful nature, Mikoto naturally couldn't accept Wu Yan's doting, so she quickly struggled to break free from him. Let me go. Let me go. Ah. Before she could finish, Wu Yan waved his hand and Mikoto's clothes and a belt flew into the air and landed below the bed. Wu Yan went straight in, silencing Mikoto's words, leaving only a soft moan in her throat. All that's left is Wu Yan's thrusts, thrusts and thrusts. Following Wu Yan's assault, Mikoto's body's desire grew stronger and stronger. In the end, Mikoto's resistance grew weaker and weaker. Gradually, her resistance turned into resistance and resistance turned into desire. All the words that came out of her mouth were transmitted within the room by those 2 simple words. Then, thrusts, thrusts and thrusts. When her body's desire completely drowned her, her rationality collapsed. Her 2 hands uncontrollably climbed onto Wu Yan's back. She closed her eyes and began to accept Wu Yan's assault. From start to finish, Mikoto didn't notice that there were a lot of bodies scattered around her. Among them there were her good sisters, there were also her enemies. One has to say this is a miracle. Soon, Mikoto welcomed her climax in her own moans. Under Wu Yan's unbridled assault, Mikoto finished everything in one go. The feeling of floating in the clouds, along with the tipsiness from before and the drowsiness of the night, caused Mikoto to fall into a deep sleep. At this time Wu Yan's hand was already touching Chuju. This time the accident didn't happen. Hinagiku was still drunk. Wu Yan gently lifted her up from her bed. Her bathrobe flew away without her knowing anything. Her body was also ravaged by a certain asterisk shoal without her knowing anything. She was also ravaged by a certain asterisk shoal. In her sleep, Chuju felt like she was in a hot spring. The water in the hot spring was very comfortable, it warmed her body. Moreover, it kept caressing her body. The warm water flowed into her body. The comfortable feeling made Chuju moan softly. There seemed to be waves in the hot spring. Her body could only go with the flow, up and down. However, the warm feeling was still there. After a long time, Chuju felt that the waves in the hot spring were getting stronger and stronger. The warm feeling in her body became clearer and clearer. Chuju kept moaning, until a certain important string in her body was touched. Chuju let out a long moan and sank to the bottom of the hot spring. Placing the sleeping Hinagiku back into his chest, Wu Yen reached out with his perverted hands and caressed Takitsubu Riku's voluptuous body. She seemed to have sensed something as she frowned and her eyelids fluttered open, confusion flashed through her eyes. Fragments of memories came back to her. Takitsubu Riku regained her vision. She was shocked when she regained her vision. This was to be expected. When you see a few girls with red skin and panting breasts beside you, you would also react the same way. A scream rushed up to Takitsubu Riku's throat. However, before she could say anything, a hand blocked her mouth. Wu Yen covered her mouth with his hand and made a should gesture. Takitsubu Riku knew what was going on when she saw this. Her pretty face turned red and she lowered her head, not daring to look at Wu Yen. Chuckling, Wu Yen picked up Takitsubu Riku and placed her on top of his body. He said in a gentle voice, "Little Riku, be a good girl, okay?" Takitsubu Riku's face turned red. Before she could react, her bathrobe flew down and overlapped with the bathrobes of the girls in front of her. She could no longer tell which bathrobe belonged to who. At the same time, Takitsubu Riku's delicate body was lifted up by Wu Yen. Takitsubu Riku's heart raced. She couldn't help but cover her breasts with her hands. She knew what was going to happen next. Hence, she could only close her eyes. Under Wu Yan's pressure, she raised her head. After a crisp sound, Takitsubu Riku landed on Wu Yan's body with a flushed face. Her breasts were held by Wu Yan and tossed up and down. Takitsubu Riku moaned with him. Very quickly, Kinohara Sayai and Frendo were also dragged into the battle by Wu Yen. With a simple wave of his hand, 2 more bathrobes appeared on the ground. 2 more moans could be heard as well. Chapter 394. The sun slowly rose from the horizon. The night was chased away by the sudden appearance of the sun. The dark clouds on the horizon were suffused with specks of gold. The sky regained its luster. White clouds floated in from afar. Blue dotted the sky and the sea. Between the horizon and the sea, 2 different worlds on the same plane were dyed with the same shade of blue. When the sun shone on a villa by the beach, the peaceful scene in one of the rooms seemed to have been broken. The people who were asleep woke up. Wu Yen opened his eyes. The glaring sun shone on his eyelids. He wanted to raise his hand to block the sunlight, but he realized he couldn't raise his hand. In his wine-red eyes, the sleeping figures of Hinagiku and Mikoto appeared in his vision. Right now, the 2 of them are lying on his left and right respectively, each holding one of his arms. No wonder he couldn't raise his arms. He looked up and saw Hinagiku, Mikoto, Ikaros, Shokuho Misaki, Astria, Kinohara Sayai, Frenda, and Takitsubu Riku lying on the same bed as him. Wu Yen was shocked. Fragments of memories from last night slowly flowed into his mind. Wu Yen finally remembered what he did last night. A smile appeared on his face. Wu Yen almost laughed out loud. He finally realized his dream of having all of his wives sleep on the same bed. Of course, other than Flandre-chan, all of his summons are sleeping on the same bed as him. The sense of accomplishment is unimaginable. Of course, the summons here don't count as the Misaka sisters. Pride surged in his chest. He has never felt this proud before. This is a historical moment that could become a milestone in his life. Wu Yen tilted his head as he looked at the girls around him. Then he said something that really deserves a beating. The Crystal Palace is endless. Comrade, you still have to work hard. Maybe even the heavens couldn't stand Wu Yan's pride. Under the infinite will of the universe, Chuju, Mikoto, Ikaros, Shokuho Misaki, Astria, Kinohara Sayai, Frenda, and Takitsubu Riku all mumbled. Their eyelids started trembling. Wu Yan's smile froze and his heart started pounding. Seeing that the girls are about to wake up, Wu Yan's warning bell started ringing and he started screaming in his mind. After all, the so-called milestone in history was nothing more than him using alcohol in exchange for it. If he reminds the girls of what happened last night, Wu Yan would lose a layer of skin even if he doesn't die. Ikaros, Astria, and Takitsubu Riku should be fine. These 3 women are extremely obedient to me, so there shouldn't be any problems. Kinohara Sayai and Frenda, on the other hand, will definitely feel embarrassed. But considering their combat prowess and everything that happened in the past, there shouldn't be any problems. However, the other 3 are different. Chuju and Mikoto will definitely throw away their hatchet without hesitation. As for Shokuho Misaki, even though she won't throw away her hatchet, she will definitely find a way to get him a hatchet and willingly throw herself at it. The danger level was simply S-class. Wu Yen chose to run away without hesitation. But the moment he moved, Wu Yen froze. Because his hands are being held by Chuju and Mikoto. No, while Wu Yen screamed in despair, the 8 girls shuddered and their eyelids fluttered open. Their eyelids fluttered open as well. 8 pairs of eyes scanned the room and looked at each other. After seeing each other's miserable state, the memory of last night finally returned to their minds. Then, under Wu Yan's gaze, the 8 girls' faces turned red. Ah! Between the beautiful horizon and the sea on the deserted beach inside the villa, a few extremely shocking voices gathered together and let out an earth-shattering scream that pierced through the clouds. Bang! The door to the room was violently flung open. Wu Yen came out of the room with his clothes in a mess. At the same time, Hinajiku with a crystal sword in her hand and Mikoto with an iron sand sword in her hand also flew out of the room with their clothes in a mess. The only difference is that the former is running away pathetically while the latter has a face full of killing intent. Wu Yen, who was running away, was shocked. He leaped away from his original spot. Almost at the same time, a crystal sword and an iron sand sword slashed at the spot where Wu Yen was just a moment ago. A strand of hair fell to the ground. Wu Yen was scared witless. He yelled at Chuju and Mikoto. "You two, are you trying to murder your husband?" Chuju gritted her teeth. Her face still had a trace of anger. She raised her white cherry and said with a murderous look, "This is called cleaning house." Wu Yen couldn't stay calm anymore. "Who taught you to say that?" Mikoto took 2 steps forward, her other hand also materializing an iron sand sword. Her face was gloomy. "You can stand there obediently and let us chop you up or wait for us to catch you and chop you into 18 pieces. You decide." "You can't do this." Shokuho Misaki came out of the room with a group of girls. Except for Ikaros and Takitsubu Riku, who had a worried look on their faces, the other 4 girls had a cold look on their faces. Shokuho Misaki straightened her clothes and sneered. "Little Yen, you have the body of a true ancestor. You can't die. Why don't you just let us vent our anger on you?" To make the always smiling Jisama speak in such a tone, one can only imagine how angry Jisama is. Wu Yen swallowed his saliva and forced a smile. "Must it be so bloody?" "Of course." Other than Ikaros and Takitsubu Riku, the other 6 girls answered without hesitation. This made Wu Yan's scalp tingle. "You Onias, and it's so noisy." The door opened and Flandre-chan rubbed her eyes while hugging a pillow. She told Wu Yen how cute she is. The girls were stunned by her cuteness. Wu Yan's face lit up and he rushed to Flandre-chan's side and hugged her. "Flan, did I wake you up? It's Oniai-san's fault. Are you hungry?" "Yes." "Yes, Flandre-chan is hungry." Looking at Wu Yen hugging Flandre-chan, the girls couldn't help but curse Wu Yan's shamelessness. With Flandre-chan in his arms, who would dare to make a move? The girls stared at Wu Yen with a dark expression. They wanted to stare him to death. Wu Yen chuckled awkwardly. Spalier World Academy Villa District. Inside one of the villas, a bright light flashed without warning. The next moment, Wu Yan's group of 10 appeared in the hall. "Oh, I'm back." Wu Yan sighed. He sounded like he had gone through a lot of ups and downs. It's as if he didn't go on a vacation but instead, he went for an exam. Shokuho Misaki snorted and walked out of Wu Yan's villa without looking back. Kinohara Sayai and Frenda had the same reaction. They snorted and followed behind Shokuho Misaki. Takitsubu Riku smiled apologetically and followed after them. Astria snorted and stuck her tongue out at Wu Yan. "Master. Idiot. Idiot." Astria followed after him. Wu Yan felt a bit resentful. Looks like this time he really got himself into a lot of trouble. Hinajiku and Mikoto didn't even look at him as they went back to their rooms and slammed the door shut. Looks like they're still in a fit of anger. Wu Yan shrunk his neck and smacked his lips. I should think about the upcoming academy competition. That you're tuning in to the Han Lee's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.